We good now? Are we good?
Yo, yo, yo. Hello, 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 hello.
We good now? There we go.
All right.
All right. Fish.
Hello.
What kind of name? What the hell, dude? Fish?
Dude, it's been a hard one to hang on to this
I feel
long.
like that's a Porky's name for like one of the younger guys in that.
It was a ball-busting nickname that stuck around.
Where'd it come from?
I'm not a good pot smoker, is the truth about it.
Wow.
And some of my friends used to smoke some pretty strong weed and inevitably would force some on me. And one day I was sitting around the living room with my mouth open, apparently for a significant amount of time. And I got big ears like Abe Pagoda from Taxi. So that's it.
That name. Yeah, that's a good one. It's weird because like certain nicknames like stick and it become like I think in my youth I always wanted a cool nickname or just a nickname, even if it was like something like Fish, which honestly sounds cool. You know, it probably didn't feel cool at the time.
It didn't at the time at all.
You know, like sometimes the coolest nicknames are the ones that don't make any fucking sense. You know what I mean?
And you can't buy them, so.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that I don't know, that was cool because I knew you as Fish and I kept telling my wife, she's like, what's the guy's name? I'm like, fuck, I don't know. Like, I'm like tripping out. And I was like, you know, I don't think it even says like your actual name on your Alleyway Customs Instagram page.
It might.
I think it says Fish on there, or it might say it. I think it might where I found it, but yeah.
It came out with a lot of the People's Champ thing. All those real name requirements for legalities and all that.
Yeah, man, it's a good time. But, you know, like I said, you've done 2 podcasts with Jason from the Garage Built. I think it's the first time I've ever said it correctly on the podcast.
I was like, wow, I hope I don't mess it up.
Yeah. I fuck with Jason all the time because he has too many names for all his different ventures.
He's got a lot of them.
They're all cool names. They're just a lot. So I never know which one pertains. It's like those things where you have like, this is why I suck at doing the cameras because I just leave it on you the whole time.
That's all right.
You see yourself up there when you're doing it. But
I know. I was like, oh shit, are you going to change it? I'm starting to feel weird.
But you know those things like where you have like 2 different things on the side of a piece of paper and you got to draw a line to the matching ones?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I think about with his names and where they go. So, but no, you did 2 great podcasts with him that, you know, the first one back in June I listened to, and that gave me a good backstory to the motorcycle part of your career, kind of.
Right.
But then there's this other part that I don't think has been explored, which is like your band days of touring the country with music. Like, what's up with that, man? How do you do that and then not do that anymore?
Well, I fell into a band thing. I had played some music. I don't even know how many years ago it was. It was probably like 18 years ago. I played in a rockabilly band only because I was building some cars with some dudes and they didn't like their bass player and they used to beat him up all the time. And they found out that they thought I could play bass, which I couldn't really complete a song. So they showed up at the workshop one night with an upright bass and we're like, we're going to teach you how to play bass. So we'll have somebody that's cooler in the band. And so I had a little bit of background with that for a little while. And then what happened was when the Super Bowl came to Jacksonville, whatever year that was, the guys that I had played in a couple of bands with were putting a band together to make a bunch of money because people were getting paid like $4,000 a night just to play Super Bowl parties. And
I remember they did that here at the new Cowboy Stadium in the city. It's like so much money comes into the city for like that weekend. Same thing with like basketball and All-Star weekends. Dude, like clubs and bars go nuts, man.
Yeah. Well, it was definitely a money thing at first. And what happened was one of the guys that brought me into that situation, we were working with somebody else and he didn't have his act together. We go to like rehearsals and stuff and he wouldn't have, he was supposed to be the guy singing and playing rhythm guitar and he didn't even know what songs he wanted to do. And we ended up goofing around doing some stuff. So finally that guy's name's Rick. He goes, dude, why don't you just sing and play guitar? And I'm like, because I understand a little bit of music, but I don't play guitar. And he goes, I'll get you an acoustic guitar and we'll bring you up to speed. And I was like, all right. So we kind of got that thrown into the mix and we never played any Super Bowl shows or anything like that. But I had an understanding of what, chord progression, what chords work together with each other.
Yeah.
And so it was a matter of transitioning what I learned how to play on upright bass and a guitar. And when I played in the other band, I sang a couple songs a little bit,
Yeah.
So anyway, it kind of snowballed and we all started having a bunch of fun. and it happened at a kind of a rockabilly resurgence.
Remember that? About
you know,
6, 7, 8?
something like that.
Yeah.
06, 07. And it all just kind of really fell into place, and we were in the right place at the right time. And we certainly weren't phenomenal musicians at the very beginning of it. I had the pleasure throughout the years of working with some really phenomenal musicians. And when I do something, I go all in.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I
you
don't
can tell.
I don't.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know how to do it halfway. So we started writing some songs, which is not really that difficult to write. Basic rockabilly songs. It's like blue suede shoes with different words. You know what I mean? And you do it in a different key, and it's a different song or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, it got mixed up with some my closest friend at the time. He had played bass in some punk bands, so he played upright bass at the beginning. The same guy, Rick. He's like a taught musician.
Yeah.
So he's
the talent. He's the
guy who knew what's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then a guy that was teaching me how to fabricate a bunch of motorcycle stuff. He's a super badass musician, but he had never played drums. So he goes, well, I'll just learn to play drums too. And that was the setup at first. And we got a lot of like gigs and stuff because people knew us in our hometown and stuff.
What I like about this story is it sounds like everybody was putting in, you know what I mean? Like everybody's like, fuck, man, I want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And like just dove in to try to learn and be a part of something, right?
It was really, really cool for a while. You know, everybody bought as expensive as equipment as we could afford. And but my closest friend at the time, a guy's named Sarge, we were business partners together in a construction company. So we were doing all right during the day. So we kind of had the means to, at least when the band started making money, we started putting money in the right places. So we had money when we go play someplace and make $400. Well, we set that aside and we bought a PA and we had a practice space and, you know, and eventually some stuff fell in the right place. We toured Iceland twice.
That's badass.
Which was crazy because at the tail end of the band stuff, I wish we were good enough at that time period to have gone to overseas and, you know, because Iceland at that point in time wasn't a big tourist. It was just about to be a big tourist thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So the people we got mixed up with over there, it's like they gave us keys to the city. Like we were on the radio.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so was it always like that rockabilly style or did you kind of evolve into like more punk and traditional rock and blues and stuff?
We all had punk backgrounds, you know.
Skaters.
And everything, you know. But in order to make the good thing about playing rockabilly music and outlaw country music and stuff like that is that you can go play at a restaurant.
Yeah.
You know, you got to play it for 4 hours, which you can go there once you get 30 songs down, and you can play all night. You can make money. You know, so we branched off at the tail end of things when we were touring around the country. We had 2 bands. We had an acoustic band that had a bunch of fictitious names. So we could open up for ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we had the electric band, and that's how, you know, in the underground music scene, that's how you make it around. You don't really have an agent. You don't have.
Yeah, yeah.
If you get good and get better and get known, you have promoters, but we never had anything. We were all grassroots.
Obviously, I'm not in that world, but just people that I know that dabbled in it, especially in the Deep Ellum area, it's like every time you would hear about a promoter putting on a show, it was always a shit show.
Yeah.
They had to chase their money down. They didn't get paid, blah, 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 you name it, kind of things, you know what I mean? So
we had some guys I know some guys that did security in the music industry, and when they weren't on tour, they kind of helped us out a little bit as far as like kind of fake managing us and traveling around and making sure we got our money and stuff like that. But we worked for Armed Forces Entertainment for a little while and traveled up and down the East Coast a bunch. There was a big scene in North Carolina at that time that we'd go do 4-day runs Thursday to
This
Sunday.
is like right around the time when I remember this because pinup, like photography and pinup models, which kind of feels like it was part of like the Kat Von D movement.
a little bit.
I mean, I'm probably saying it from a very, very outsider's perspective. That's really not fair to someone like you that was probably in it. But from our view, it's like Miami Heat comes on and then Kat Von D flows into it. And then all of a sudden every chick has got bangs and polka dot dresses and dressing this way. And then it hit us in the airbrush culture because everybody wanted pin-up chicks on gas tanks and shit.
Right.
Yeah, that's the same time of like the TV choppers kind of took a back seat and then the bobber thing came into the mix along with the rat rod thing.
Yeah, the rat rod thing was
Yeah.
a big. That's what. Maybe that is what made it take off. You know, because everybody was getting a car spray painted flat black,
was just-
putting red rims and white walls, and then you didn't have to finish it, but you were still cool.
Yeah,
But-
for the same.
A lot of super sketchy vehicles, you know. But
it seemed like a good thing to be a part of. I mean, like I was saying, when you got off the airplane, I was talking to my buddy Insta Having Kyle, and he's kind of a big part of all that stuff too. You know, like
yeah,
I mean, I was listening to the podcast you did with Jason, and y'all were talking rear ends and 10-bolt mains and fucking 51 versus 55s, and I'm
Right.
just like that meme of that lady with the math equations in the air, and you're just staring places. It's like, I know Impalas and muscle cars, that's it, but like those old Plymouths or those Plymouth Dodge, same thing.
Right.
So like all that shit, I just don't know it, but to me, it's like looking at like something like music, like learning how to play an instrument. The way I think about having to learn how to pinstripe or airbrush or take pictures, I'm like, I got all my computing power onto this. Like, how did you?
right.
How is it possible to still fuck with bikes, still fuck with cars, learn how to play music, and do it, plus have a day job, doing construction work and things like that?
Well, the construction company, we had a crew of guys. We were doing rough framing and remodeling, and at that point in time, we had a pretty smooth sailing ship for the most part, and you couldn't go work on your car,
Yeah.
but you could run by the motorcycle shop and see what's not getting done on your bike that somebody promised you. You know what I mean? Or you can go see if whoever is getting together your small block motor or something like that. And Sarge and myself were equally. We both had a car going at the same time. We both had, I was into bikes before cars.
Yeah.
Honestly. And Mike Wilson got me into cars, and we traded a bike for my first car. But all that tattoo crew in Jacksonville at that time period was building cars. And, I didn't know a lot about it. In fact, I wasn't very mechanically inclined when I got my first Harley.
Yeah.
I really couldn't work on stuff. That's not the background I had
Yeah.
as a kid,
So what were you doing? Like, you were skating and stuff as a kid, right? Is that what I was
Yeah.
gathering? Like,
Yeah,
the whole alleyway customs comes from the garage in the alley that you had the car and stuff.
That
in?
was at my grandparents' property that we still have in Jacksonville Beach, and
Nice.
there's two garages in the back. And when my band was touring, my 51 Chevy stayed in one garage.
I haven't been recording. All right. Keep going, but yeah, you have to watch YouTube for the rest. The first 15 minutes.
Maybe I'll have one of these Montuckies.
Oh, that'll get that juice flowing, bro.
All right, we'll see how these go.
But no, that's
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers, man. Thanks for coming out.
No, thank you for having me. Well, we were talking about skateboarding and not being mechanically inclined.
Yeah.
Basically. In fact, my two friends, Sarge and JT, that got me involved in motorcycles used to joke. They're like, just give me the wrench.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it will be here forever, And then over the years, I've forced myself to working on stuff to get better at it. And but the alleyway comes from the alley that is at my grandparents' property.
You said the vibe down there was kind of Venice Beachy.
It's a surf skate town.
Yeah.
There's a pier down there.
How I've ridden through Jackson. I've ridden across that one of the long ass bridges that takes you to 10 from Daytona.
Okay.
Going up, then you cut over. I think the south side of Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Haven't been through Jacksonville proper.
Yeah.
And definitely haven't been to the beach there. So is it compared to like the Daytona and the further south? Is it a little bit different than that? Because
It's a lot different. Where it's a beachy town.
Okay.
And eventually people got money because the property value went up. But when I was a kid growing up there, we were just kind of getting by in a small, 1,000 square foot house, and everybody lived there because you went to the beach and you went surf fishing and surfed or skated. All the surf shops around there transitioned into selling skateboards when.
yeah.
That was about when I was in 6th grade, which was 83 or so. So I started skating in 6th grade and went on till out of high school, and a few years past that till life transitioned. And
Yeah, I remember, I I had the weirdest transition, right? Because I went from playing basketball, right? I was fairly decent at it for, you know, my skin tone and my size.
Right.
And I was pretty good, at best, especially playing street ball. So, like, when I was younger in high school, you remember the And One? Remember that thing?
I think so.
It was like a real popular T-shirt thing that was kind of catered to the street ball thing.
Right.
So I did that in high school, and then out of nowhere, like, here I am wearing Nike headbands and fucking, you know, wiggered out, to be honest with you.
Right.
And then something just hit me, and I'm like, I want to skateboard. I think it was Tony Hawk Pro Skater that really made me go, like, this game's fun. I bet it's funner to do it.
Yeah.
And so I bought a skateboard, and then I went down the rabbit hole for like 6 years.
Yeah.
But then that was also like junior in high school. I quit playing basketball and started skateboarding. So I did a 180 basically. And, you know, yeah, it was crazy because, you know, then you start not fantasizing, but like just idolizing, like, man, like one day I'm gonna get to skate fucking Venice Beach or this, because we didn't really have a lot of skate parks here in the late 90s.
Right.
You know what I mean? It wasn't.
Well, a big thing about Jacksonville is we had Kona, and I believe it's the oldest skate park.
I remember seeing things like that in Transworld and stuff like that back in the day.
So obviously when you're in sixth grade, you can't drive. There was backyard ramps and vert ramps. And stuff like that, you know, being a kid, that was very intimidating. And
we always had them here at churches. So you had to go sit and listen to this bullshit for like an hour. And then you're like, all right, now you can go skate the ramp. It's like they were like luring you with like candy and stuff. Or like.
Well, when, you know, going to Kona that was a life-changing thing as a kid. You know, it's a giant place for a kid. It's fast. You can hurt yourself. You know, and that just having that right out the gate reality check of like, whoa, this is big leagues. And then, you know, every year they had the summer nationals where all the pros came and skated the vert ramp, which was terrifying as a kid because, you know, it's 4 times taller than you are. And, but, you know, Kona was like, it was like my home. You know, it was like boys camp. You know, we had a year pass, me and my friends, and you get dropped off there, you'd be there all day.
Yeah.
And then as I became an adolescent and got a vehicle, and then you had hung out in the parking lot, and that's where you learned about punk rock music and, you know,
that's a good point.
Some different things to do from some older friends that you looked up to, and you start getting influenced. And but yeah, it was a big part of us having that there, you know, and I'm thankful for man, that was a big deal, you know.
It's weird how like cultural things that kind of move across the country really affect the individual lives, like say the rockabilly movement coming across the country affecting you or making it to where you can do the band versus also the Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Dude, I'm so fucking influenced by everything because I openly say,
me too, you know.
Tony Hawk made me want to skateboard. Fast and Furious made me want to do car shit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like it to me, like those old hot rod magazines in the 90s, I grew up in a body shop, right? So that stuff was on every counter, you know, probably some weed stem because my dad was a fucking pothead. But like it was always there, and it just never appealed to me. It was always dudes that looked like him that fucked with cars that I know I could never get my hands on.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Same thing with like early Harley stuff. Like it was hard for me. I didn't have friends in it that could show me that, oh, you can buy a fucking Dyna for like $2,000, bro.
Well, that's a different story in itself. The you know, getting into Harleys in the time period that we did, you know, we were in our early 20s.
What year was this around?
That was 96. And the only way I remember that
Tupac
is
died.
right. The only way I remember that is there was a significant record that came out that I remember. I didn't even know how to ride a moped. No motorized equipment in our household as a kid growing up. You know, we had, you know, BMX stuff and obviously skateboard stuff and all, but you know, I went from nothing at all to, hey, my brother's going to loan you $4,000 to get this 69 Ironhead. And my buddy Sarge had to teach me how to ride it around a Kmart parking lot. And I was scared. Yeah. You know, but at that time period, going into the bike shops, it's like, you know, you hear a bunch of stories about it, listen, you know, of people that went through the same thing. Being that young and at that time period, they didn't like you. They didn't want you in there. You know, it was the asshole mentality
So like tattoo shops in that same time frame.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
pretty much, But like my first bike, I'm pretty sure I got taken for about a $1,200 ride on the electric start going out and a generator, and then that bike we chopped up within a year to go full Dave Mann, 8 over Springer, ape hangers, sissy bar.
See, I really wish, man. I really wish that when I was in my early years, that I would have been influenced by that Harley culture that early, rather than going down this long road of motorcycle, sport bikes and other types of bikes before I actually fell into the Harley thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I remember the first years that we'd go down to Daytona to party and hang out.
So that might be a big thing too, is that you had such a huge event.
Well, I never knew that there was that many straight exhaust shotgun pipes in the country. And I remember just laying in the hotel room, waking up like the next morning, all you hear is just blaring up and down Main Street, and like the bug bit,
That's cool, man.
There's something about a bike that old that's that sketchy that, may or may not make it home, and it just feels way more dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, dude, like I was, did you ever meet Mark, Big Trouble? Has that gray Bagger and Dyna?
Because he lives in Jacksonville.
Yeah. So we were talking when I was out in Lakeland. Actually, I was like, "Man, what's it like? You guys are all from Jacksonville, and at the same time, it was basically when Fred Durst was coming out. So how was that? And I know that he was in the tattoo scene too, or some shit like that.
I know Fred pretty good.
You do?
Yeah. It was really weird. Well, he skated.
He did.
Yeah. I don't know why he didn't really skate with our crowd of people or whatever, but then he branched off into doing some other stuff. And, I known Fred for a long time, but it was very weird because all that Limp Bizkit stuff happened real quick.
For real?
It was like, boom, they were playing and with 6 other kind of rap metal bands that just happened to not make it at the same dive bar on the boardwalk, where it was metalheads against punk rockers every night. Fist fighting, you know what I mean? Yeah. And they just happened to be the punk or the
one that got the ticket, basically.
Yeah, and then it was weird, but
I mean, like those kind of like that was very influential music for anybody that was probably more my age at the time. Like 97, 98, I was I graduated in 01, so that's probably that music. I didn't like it at the time because I was a hardcore into rap. I grew up, in the hood of Dallas, so you pretty much didn't get to listen to white music.
Right, right.
You get jumped in high school, man. If you come to school with a Metallica fucking patch on your backpack, dude, you're like, first off, it's not they're going to beat you up right away. They're going to make fun of you for a while, and then as soon as you say anything back to them making fun of you or you make fun of them better, then you get beat up.
Yeah.
Not by one person, but like the group.
Well, what was another side story to all this is that when Fred and all them got money, see, because I knew some of the bigger dudes became their security guys when they were traveling all over the world with them and stuff.
Yeah.
So at one of the bike shops, that an older guy, Michael Mangani, he had passed away, and his son, which is younger than my crew of people, he kept the shop going. Well, Fred went and bought a bunch of brand new Softails from the dealership and had them all customized there. And they lived as a band on the same street I lived on 9th and 9th in Jacksonville Beach. And I was building a big, crazy West Coast chopper.
Oh, hell yeah.
At the time when Fat Tire stuff was, my first brand new bike that I was always building a bike and riding a bike. So I had sold a bike and didn't have one to ride, but that one was almost done, but it was brand new, everything. And I'd go blaring down the street because their bike wasn't as custom as the chopper we had going, but it was all good. We're, everybody's still friends.
That's cool, man. Like, no matter what, like, it's funny as like the joke music, like people might joke about it now. It's like, do you hear one of those fucking songs come on the radio? You're like, fuck, man, this shit goes hard, dude. Right. Compared to what we got on the radio now for the most part. So,
man, who would have ever thought it is like it is now?
Dude, I bet all the people that hated rap from the 90s and early 2000s wish it was like just that still. You know what I mean?
I don't want to get off on a tangent. I don't even know what this stuff is.
I don't either.
With the synthesized auto-tune voice.
It's so weird.
It's super weird.
But yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's a little bit of a, I don't think like when I you know sitting here with you, you know what I mean? Like I don't feel old. Like we're talking about this era, and I'm right back there. You know what I mean? Like I'm right back there. Like fuck, man. I remember this girl I was trying to get with. Her younger brother was all into Limp Bizkit, and I didn't give a shit. I was trying to, you know, get knuckle deep in this chick. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't, you know, and I'm thinking about that moment now because that's the first time I ever really heard Limp Bizkit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As crazy as that is.
Yeah. I mean, you make it that far, you're going to leave a mark on some stuff.
What, that many knuckles?
Not that many. Not your situation.
Okay.
Knuckle situation.
Yeah.
If that worked both ways.
No, but you know, like it's everything that takes place, all the shit that's taken place in California over the years. It swipes across the country, and you remember where you were when the first time you heard so and so on the radio, or the first time you opened the magazine and saw that bike that changed your perspective of motorcycles, or that car, or whatever. Man, like there's. For a world that hates the word brand ambassador and influencer, if we really think about it, like we're all subject to that in some form or fashion.
Absolutely. And you know, think about all the iconic bikes that were on. I know with chopper stuff, like when I met Jason and went down into his shop and that Red Rum gas tank was in there, I was like, dude, you got that tank?
Dude, he nerded out getting that tank. But it was cool seeing him grab a piece of his, I don't know, of the culture that he really, you know, holds on to. The time period.
Big time period for him, you know, and myself too. And the crazy thing is that really, it was an iconic bike because it was so simple, and it being on the cover let everyone else know out there, like Sportster tank, stock frame, Springer front end, 21, 16. You know, you could pick the whole bike apart and go, I can build that bike. I can build that bike, and everybody wanted it.
So that's the other thing about like that whole era, right? Because it made celebrities out of normal guys that were doing exactly what you were doing at the time, wrenching in the garage, doing cool shit. You know what I mean? Like
messing a bunch of stuff up.
Hey, dude, we still do that today,
right?
We just get yelped. That's but I mean, like that's the thing. It's like that's what the motorcycle thing did, and I think that's why. I mean, that's why it blew up so big, because it was like a very easily obtainable celebrity.
Well, you know, that was when all the Discovery Channel stuff and all that was going on. You could turn on the TV and see all that stuff. You know, when, not to sound like, oh, when we did this, whatever deal, but you know, back in '96, we were influenced by Easy Rider magazines, or a poster somewhere. There wasn't even any of the internet forums or any of that stuff. I literally had a Panhead idea from just like a poster that my buddy Sarge had on in the house we lived in, and none of us had a Panhead. You know what I mean? But you knew that was a 4-over wide glide with some funky tanks and, you know, drag bars, and that's where you were, you know, going to get all your influence.
Well, at the same time, like maybe I'm going off on a fucking on a rabbit hole here, but maybe that's also why like friendships like you had with these groups and all these guys getting like-minded, you guys were forced to actually come out of the house and hang out in a garage and drink a beer and start a band. And so like so many more people, I think, were taken, like you have to go outside the house to be a part of anything. When now we have a fucking Google chat for everything. We have you know, an Instagram to show the world what we're doing. So it's like it's much easier to be a hermit now. And I don't feel like you get these like team ups of people that
it's just different. But I don't knock it because, for example, we're talking about paint ideas.
Yeah.
When you pick me up from the airport, we're talking about doing some leaf work and some scroll work. I talked about an idea I had in my head, and me and you had both seen the bike reference I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Because it's all over the place. And for that reason, it's good, you know. But it was a different time period back then to have to create your own scene. You create your own group of people.
Yeah. Well, for sure, the being able to see, like seeing the bike that you just finished for, you know, the People's Champ deal, that is inspiring somebody right now to go like, fuck, man, I'm envisioning myself rolling down A1A on that fucking bike right now. Yeah. And dude, that is the best feeling in the world, is when you get that fucking like seeing yourself rolling PCH or rolling down Monument Valley Highway, whatever the highway is.
Right.
Just anywhere, like down Main Street in Sturgis on this bike, and you get that third person like you're playing fucking Grand Theft Auto type.
Oh, everybody looks over in that window to see how you're looking.
That's when you get that, like that, dude. I had that when I built my gold bike. I saw this fucking dude on Instagram riding a Dyna with a full fairing. It wasn't even an FXR, but it was a Dyna. But for some reason, it was the right picture at the right time, and it fucking stuck with me. And I was like, that's what I want to look like going down the road.
There's a picture when I finished my Panhead. I built quite a few bikes for my closest friend, Mike Wilson. And we finished, it's a 65 Panhead drivetrain in a 48 frame. It was a blue Panhead. It was in hot bike. And, you know, a lot of Mike's bikes sit because he can't decide which one he wants to ride or whatever, you know. So, yeah, so I've gotten with him recently to be like, hey, man, when you come in town, what bike you want to ride? And let's make sure that one's good to go. And we won't worry about why this one has gas in it over here and it sat for 6 months and the gas is going bad and it needs a flush and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long story short, talking about riding bikes and all that stuff, when I was test riding his bike and really getting it dialed in, there's a series of windows in the front of the commercial area by where the shop's at. And there's a Danny Lyon photo from back in the day. And it's a club guy going over, I think it's the Kentucky Bridge. And it's a Panhead bobber. It's a pretty iconic photo. It's got stock tanks, but chrome Wassel fenders on it. And he's got a pogo seat. It's that stance. And I always saw that picture. I've been, into Panheads now for quite a few years of wanting one, obtaining one, and trying to maintain a Panhead, But that was one of the first styles of Panheads that I wanted. So when I was test riding Mike's bike, I came by the window, and it caught that right angle. It's got the same kind of bars. And I looked over and I was like, man, that's like that Danny Lyon photo.
Hell yeah.
And it just gave you that feeling just for a split second, like, man, that's what you're in this for, is that little bit of cool.
Yeah, it feels fucking cool as shit, man.
Yeah.
How that brought me you just said something like, how do you become a panhead guy, a knucklehead guy, or a shovelhead guy? Like, how do you, like, what really pushes someone down a specific path that way? You know what I mean?
I became a panhead guy honestly because of my friends up in Atlanta. I took a trip with them. We rode. There were so many of us going to the Horse Smokeout. One year when it was still in Salisbury.
I wouldn't mind checking one of those. I always see the pictures from it. Like,
well, the older ones were really cool.
Yeah.
And the one at Rockingham Motor Speedway is cool. I've never rode there. My band played there 2 times, I think.
That's cool.
And that's a cool event because they got the drag racing there and everything. But anyway, back to the Panhead thing. One year we trailered 2 bikes up to Atlanta, and there was a pack of us. It was 8, 10, 11 of us. And a lot of the guys from Atlanta used to skate too, and I used to skate with them in Daytona and different areas like Jimmy O'Brien, my friend Shay Cannon. They're all Panhead guys. So I got to take that trip with them, and we rode literally with no GPS, no nothing, with Jimmy with an Atlas. And there was a chase truck.
Yeah.
Because somebody's old lady was going or something. We had spare tires, cooler full of beer, coils, plug wires, anything that could break, and we just took off. And you'd stop whenever, whatever, and check the Atlas and point in one direction. You'd head back up over whatever mountain, and that's when I was riding like a bobber style bike, that big fat tire chopper. I sold the Roland chassis and put it in a Softail frame that was like Springer front end, Springer bars, and just made a real fast 100 cubic inch 5-speed rideable old style bike. But I was jealous of all the guys riding the old stuff, and I've always liked Jimmy's Panhead. And shortly after that trip, I sold that bobber bike to a guy local in Jacks Beach, and I said, if you want to buy my bike right now, I'll sell it to you for this price. Don't even put the check in my name. There was a 62 Panhead in Orlando. And he handed me the check to that dude's name, and I drove down and got it.
Wow.
Kind of sight unseen. So I had a 62 Panhead for a little while. And, the shovel heads, the cone shovel heads are more like they're very similar to an Evo motor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The Panhead, with it being a generator, gear driven, it sounds like an old sewing machine. And it has that, it's not a horsepower thing. It's this clunky old thing. When it's running smooth, you've done all your work to it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you got nothing rattling, and it's just it's a different feeling. But that's how I got into Panheads, and I love them. You know,
So I feel like when it comes to all these old bikes, even, you know, talking about FXRs, like, I don't know so much about the FXR community now because I've heard some horror stories from some close friends about people getting too woke, basically.
right.
But the thing is, like, when you own an FXR, and I'm just saying that from the experience of it, like, there's a respect that goes around because everybody knows that if you rode it across country, you earned it a little bit. Maybe not as much as you would earn it on a shovelhead or a fucking, you know, panhead or knucklehead, but there's this earn it factor, right? It takes a little bit of competence to be able to keep these bikes on the road, keep them maintained, and you know what's going on. It's not just a button you press all the time. So
chain maintenance.
Yeah. So there's like this level of, like, I've always thought there was this level of everybody's cool because everybody's dealing with the same shit. But I don't know if because FXRs got so popular that people were not trying to generalize, but a lot of people were getting into it and getting more on the
Excuse me,
on the fence of, I want to be an FXR guy, so I'm going to put my FXR bravado onto everybody else and kind of make FXR community not as fun as it was and not as earned to be here as it was before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It happens to
It happens to all the different bikes.
It happens to all of it, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, but FXRs, you're right, because you're riding that FXR at a different speed.
Yeah, you're
You're cruising.
yeah, you're getting it.
You're cruising on a bike with a 5-speed, unless you know, let's just say a stock FXR with a 80-inch or more motor. You're pushing 70, 75. You're pushing $3,000.
Yeah,
depending on how you got it geared or what you changed around. So that bike's, it's not screaming for mercy, but it's only going to scream like that for so long. So it's true what you're saying, and it's a different kind of. I love my 83 FXR, and we were talking, I want another one.
Yeah.
You know, that bike out handles all the Dynas I rode. It was everything that I heard anybody talk about.
Yep.
You know, that as soon as I sold my FXR and got back on a Dyna, I was like, well, there went that.
Like I said, there's certain Dynas though that I think, like I said, if I ever get my hands on a T-Sport, that'll be one I keep forever. Like my garage has always been Road Glide, T-Sport, full fairing FXR. As of the last couple of years, 82 FXR deraked by Al Emerson or something like that.
Right.
And then of course I've always been in love with the chopper, man. It's just like I get chopper fever hanging out with a guy like you or something like that for a couple of days, and then I got to distance myself and get back to reality. You know what I mean? Because like I want one, I don't have the patience.
Unless you're riding with other chopper people.
True. Exactly.
You don't. Panhead people gotta go ride with panhead people.
Yeah.
You know, on that particular ride I was talking about, we had 100-inch motors. We were
so that makes sense with the whole, like, why you would probably end up falling in love with this, because of everybody else is on panheads, and then you've got these great memories.
You got the same problems.
Yeah.
You got the same.
Yeah.
I think I'm fouling my plugs. Oh, I think my bowl of my carburetor's leaking a little bit, or whatever. You know what I mean? But you can't have, when I had that 62 panhead, and I was working with some guys down in Jacksonville Beach, and they all got bikes. Well, they all got new bikes. Mm-hmm. We were going riding around, and all I had was my 62. And I was taking them in all the corners around the 35-mile-an-hour roads and stuff. We get out on the highway, and I'm like, I'll just meet y'all there. Yeah. I'm not blowing my bike up because you guys just got a bike, last month or whatever. But I built an Evo chopper. Mm-hmm. I was like, don't worry. I got something coming for you. And that Evo chopper, I rode Deals Gap, the Dragon, all up through the mountains. And
are you more of a rigid frame guy or a swing arm guy, or what do you?
I like rigid.
Rigid, yeah.
Rigid.
I think if you're gonna do a chopper, man, it's gotta be fucking rigid.
Yeah, I mean, people do that, the Crazy Frank's rear fender, and I like that look, but I'm kind of, I'll catch some hell for this, but I'm kind of not into that whole, a lot of people putting extended front ends on stock frames. and I'm not going to knock them.
Yeah.
Because man, you're doing it, and I've been there. But I like a frame to sit pretty level. Go ahead and modify your frame.
Yeah, I can't stand a fucking like monster truck looking front end where it's up in the air.
You know, I like to ride the bikes, and I don't know. My experience with the bike stuff like that, it's kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're keeping it sketchy, that's cool. And again, I ain't gonna knock nobody, you know, but.
Are you a fan of like when they make these handlebars? They're like so fucking close that their knuckles are looking like they're doing knuckle tattoos.
Man, they're great in a straight line. You know, hey, the bike we're doing, I forget what year. Chris's Ironhead's a 68, and we put a 12 over front end on it. And to sound like a hypocrite, it is jacked up a little bit because the aftermarket frame. That bike was about 3 inches off the ground. You had never cornered it.
Yeah.
Everything would have drug. So we put a bigger front end on it, and he likes the narrow bars, and that thing runs. We're hoping to bring it down to the Sarasota show. But I built some stainless bars that are big enough to put grips on. You know what I mean? And they look super cool. Yeah. But I mean, I push that thing around the shop, and I'm like, oh, you know.
Yeah, narrow bars, man. They make it a little bit hard to move things, navigate, and
you build up your forearms.
Man, like as badass as it looks to ride, you know, like it's okay. So like those pictures of fucking Brad Pitt going around a corner, holding onto the jockey shift, perfect hair flowing in the wind. Not even fucking with his eyes. Like
he's got no glasses.
No glasses. He's just fucking sexy as hell going through that shit, man. And it's like you see that, and you're like I said, man, like, I'm never gonna be that cool. You know what I mean? But you can buy the bike and feel that cool. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the thing. It's like it's so. I've ridden very shortly. I've ridden a jockey shift bike, and god damn, that shit is sketchy to me. Man. But it makes you ride a different way than I'm used to riding.
It's a different mindset. It's a different mindset, and we all put up with it so you can shift by hand, basically, is the whole deal. After getting my bike together, I built a shovel head out of spare parts that kind of launched my company. I sold that bike and probably double street value.
Yeah.
And did really well on it, and I invested in 2 other bikes to kind of start building and rolling with. A 69 pan shovel, and then I bought a 48 pan head replica. That was my bike. I finished both of those and ended up selling one down the road. But that shovel head was foot clutch, no front brake, jockey shift, and it was my first one. And I was pretty terrified of it after having one incident. I almost launched myself into some traffic, and but I wasn't comfortable with it. But getting into, you know, building bikes and doing bikes for everybody, you got to ride them all.
Yeah.
So I'd have a bunch of customers, you know.
You got to be able to help steer your customers too, right? Like with experience.
But with people with, hey, I am riding a foot clutch bike. I want you to put this foot clutch on. And, you know, it wasn't until recently where I could kind of turn some work down. So, you know, I did what I had to do. And I had to ride them all and test ride them all and make sure they were safe. So I got kind of comfortable with it. But it wasn't until I did the foot clutch on the panhead I just finished that I've still never stalled the bike. I hate it. I don't even.
That's not wood, man. You need to knock
See,
over there.
now I'm gonna stall.
So what about so you know, nowadays if you fast forward to now, then they see Fish that's painting, fabricating and building, you know, fucking casting or at least designing for casts. I don't know if you actually were doing the castings yet.
A little bit.
Leather work.
Yeah.
Like just I mean it's where did it start? Like basically getting into where, okay, I'm going to pick up the paint gun and try that.
I had painted a little bit of stuff. There was an auto body shop that me and my buddies rented that when I first got into cars, and there was a guy. It was a used car lot. There was a guy. His name was Ron. He worked at the Mayo Clinic during the day delivering organs, and he was a hot rodder. But at night, for extra money, he'd come to the used car lot and he'd paint bumpers and whatever. They had a little makeshift paint booth. Yeah. So he was kind of teaching us, you know, we didn't want to learn. We wanted to just get our stuff done.
I was going to say, like, what was the drive? Like, was it just necessity?
We wanted to build as many cars as we could.
Okay.
At one time, I had probably 4 40s, 50s, and 60s cars. Probably a third of them running, you know. But we wanted to learn how to chop cars. You know, some of the guys were learning how to do lead work.
Nice.
You know, like we were in. You know, jump all the way in, and so I had a little bit of paint experience doing that, and then I painted a couple Harleys, did some flame jobs. We were all, you know, first era, we'll say of the band era was, you know, flames on everything.
Oh yeah. Well,
you know,
mid 2000s.
Yeah.
So I mean, flames was at a pretty good height there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? From the truck culture that was
Yeah.
going on as well. Like not just mini truck, but just like full size trucks were getting flame jobs left and right.
I've literally been pinstriping poorly since then.
Me too.
You know, but so I had a little bit of experience doing the paint stuff, but all the bikes that I was flipping or not, you know, building one while I was riding one, sell the one I was riding, and now you got the new one to ride. They were all with a ton of help from whatever local shop that I didn't know how to wire bikes. I didn't know how to take apart primaries. You know, I didn't know much about motor internals or any of that stuff, but I had an idea of this is the kind of bike I want to do. And I was kind of designing them and doing as much as I could. And then kind of seeking out the help of some other guys, like that guy that played drums that taught me how to fabricate, Dave Nissen.
Yeah.
You know, I'd go to his shop and be like, hey, how do we bend some stuff around? And I want to make this, and we want to make some handlebars and, you know, stuff like that. So I started off doing leather when I quit touring with the band, and I was putting together the Death Machine, and I contacted this guy. He goes by Exian Leather. His name's Christian. Baddest leather dude I've ever seen. He did Atomic Trent's bikes. He's still around, but I talked to him on the phone, and he was going to do a solo seat, a P-pad, and a side bag. And he was basically saying the same thing that you and I were talking about when I was saying, hey, leather work's expensive and stuff. And Mike Wilson had done some leather tooling on a seat that he and I had tried to do together a long time ago. And I was like, well, let me see if I can try to, you know, another stab at this. So I started out doing the leather stuff. And then when this guy Bubba died, that was an old friend of ours that was a mechanic in Jacksonville and worked at all the shops. He was a super nice guy. He helped us out with all the mechanical end of all the old bikes. So when he passed away, there was a big like lull, and we were all still putting whatever project we had together. So some of the older mechanic guys were coming around and trying to get, you know, side hustle a little bit, and I was working with them trying to learn. And the first guy that was working with me, I loved him. He was a good dude, but he was just messed up on pills and stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were getting some stuff done, but the first shop that I had that I was supposed to be doing leather out of, he was there working with me, and we were getting that shovel head together. And then it kind of snowballed into like, hey man, I want to do this, or somebody else, hey, I want to do this, or hey, I want to get this bike together. So the bikes that I had put together were all missing good paint work, good seats, how things were fabricated. It was literally all just catalog bought components.
Yeah.
You know, so I slowly started to transition into like, I want to learn how to do this. I saw this. I want to do this. About that time, there was, you know, internet blogs and stuff like that, and all, you know, I like a lot of the stuff that the Japanese guys do.
Yeah, I mean,
choppers
even
and stuff.
today, I mean, they're on another level out there of art.
Yeah, big time. So we'd see an idea like that, and that's how it all started to transition.
Man, the thing with like, sometimes it's kind of rare nowadays to see certain painters that can do everything from airbrush to pinstriping to base coating and graphics. But depending on where you grew up, depends on whether or not you had to figure out how to do all that shit to make it happen.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like when you were coming up into this, like, you didn't have an option for a C guy, or he was so out of your price range that it made more sense to invest a couple weeks into learning how to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and same thing here. It's like, you know, when I was painting, it's like when I was in the good graces of the biggest painter here in town, I got to paint there and learn every day.
Yeah.
But when I wasn't in his graces, that means that you're on your own on this island where you have no access to any kind of help. And it's like, I'm sure there was like old school pinstripers that ran around town, but even though it would have been helpful to just pay them to come and stripe some flames for me in 06, because they weren't there, I had to do it.
Yep.
And I didn't do a good job, but I had to do it. And
Yeah.
eventually you get here. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, fuck, well, you know, it sucked not having them then, but now I don't need them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things that, like, you know, you never realize like how like something that's not going in your favor now can really change how things are working out for you later on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I wouldn't, you know, I have a shovel head manual
Mm-hmm.
that the greasiest, dirtiest part of it is the primary section because I didn't know how to do it. And I had a good friend of mine from down in Gainesville, another old mechanic friend I knew from working at the shops. His name's Stefan Questel. His old Harley,
Fancy, dude.
very fancy.
Dude.
He was
Sounds suave as fuck.
he's a good guy, man. He worked on a lot of Harley drag teams
Yeah.
down in Gainesville and stuff. And I was paying him to come up and help me whenever, you know. And the long distance thing just didn't work out. And, you know, putting a primary together, man, I know this now, but, you know, you forget a lock tab,
Yeah.
whatever, you ain't putting your clutch basket on.
Yeah.
You ain't, you know, different components, you know. So I got a couple bikes together, and I had to figure out the primaries, and I wouldn't change that now because now it's all that, you know, I can look at a twin cam primary. It's all, might not be exactly the same, but it's the same principle.
Yeah.
And I would have never had that experience if somebody would have continued to hold my hand, you know.
So I was making sure the volume was good.
Oh yeah.
Usually people start bitching on YouTube if it's not good, but
Yeah.
because I'm seeing the screen, I'm like looking at the bars on it and stuff. I'm like, okay, is that good? Is that good? But no, my bad. I'm listening.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
No, but it's so, you know, what's dope is like all these things that you did in that late mid 2000s has evolved into what this is now, which is you becoming a people's champ guy, which, to be honest with you, I'm just going to say it. I think the bike that you built has every right to be an invited builder as anybody else I've ever seen there. I mean, obviously there's guys that are building shit that is out of this world that even the best guys in the world can't even touch.
Yeah.
What was the dude's name that built the fucking see-through motor last year?
Hawk Lash, the vintage technology
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
Okay, dude, we're not fucking doing it. Next thing is, this dude's going to come here next year and he's going to fucking pour his own rubber for his tires.
Yeah.
We just can't, there's nothing we can do about that.
Yeah.
But everything else I've seen out there, other than a couple of those anomalies like that guy that's just gone above and beyond, like some guys have actually poured their own castings, like you were saying,
Right,
for the
right.
motors. Great shit. But just overall aesthetics of looking at a bike, you know, colors, balance, chrome versus paint versus this is handmade, this is designed by me. I did, like, come on, man. The popularity contest is what always kills, like, it kills art is what it kills.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's like you're basing this over who has more pull on social media, and it's not really fair to the people that are actually talented, that are putting their nose to the ground and grinding, or whatever the fucking saying is.
I do want to say, I really, really appreciate Built Well and the People's Champ for having me be involved in that, and Born Free and all that. You know, the situation got messed up because of COVID.
For sure.
You know, and that's where a lot of things were very frustrating with how it went down, you know, and I appreciate everybody digging the bike. And, you know, going into that, it is true what you're saying. There's guys pulling off feats of mechanical engineering is like how I like to state it.
That's a very fancy way to say it.
The CT Newmans,
Yeah.
the Hawk Lash, you know, and it's growing because the bar keeps getting raised and raised and raised, which became a very, very intimidating thing being in that competition, because once you make it to 6, you're going to California.
Yeah.
And all of that same group of people is going to see your bike on a 3 or 4 foot tall platform, and they're going to see underneath your frame. They're going to see every nut and bolt. And, you know, it was very, very challenging to build something on, I won't say on whatever level, but to try to do it on the very, very highest level that you possibly can.
Yeah.
And by all standards, but my bike is a stock rake configuration. It's not a big, crazy looking bike, but all the little details and the different things that you can't just do a round stock sissy bar because it has to be different than the other guy over there that's using round stock. So what are you going to do different?
Yeah, and I mean, realistically, you go down the whole different idea. It's like you're always going to get capped somewhere that someone else has done. Like you were talking about that with the tank, where it's like, you know what? I want to do something different. I'm not saying it hasn't been done with the tank that you did. Like your words. It's like it has been done. It just hasn't been overdone.
Well, the reason why I picked that tank is because there wasn't many other options other than building your own shape.
Yeah.
But, any kind of Wassell tank configuration in a Frisco or mid-tunnel, that was the last 3 years if you're paying attention.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could have very easily, I had a Wassell mocked up on it. I had a sprung bait seat on it and was terrified about not putting a sprung bait seat on that bike because that's what looks so natural.
Yeah.
That's what you're expecting to see. And how would my style seat go over? Mm-hmm. And the other crazy thing that I didn't realize, but in designing that bike, having had the bike down to Jason's show in Lakeland and that it's going to be a couple different places for stuff we're doing, I built that bike specifically for the era and style that is at Born Free.
Yeah.
That's why there's,
I can see that.
That's why there's no heavy flake. That's why it's that bike, in my opinion, is my take on a late 50s, early 60s style bobber chopper. Mm-hmm. Nothing was cut. They weren't doing longer front ends. It was sissy bar, kind of the bars that came from the race style.
Yeah.
Because those are Stellings and Hellings bars that Tom Faber did. Mm-hmm. And to make a bike like that look like, for the most part, you wouldn't have seen that bike after 66. It was a panhead motor from 51. It was kind of like you could have done. Maybe the paint was a little bit more modern than could have been done back in that day. But
so that's why I never really I never jived with that, because obviously you said you listen to podcasts. I hate chopper flames.
Yeah.
I feel like I get that like, Scott Chemical Candy, I love the dude.
Yeah.
But I just can't get over the seaweed flames. And it's like when you're starting to do these things that are period correct, it's weird because I love Born Free. I love the culture that it's created. I love all the things that Born Free helped inspire across the country, from the congregation to Giddy Up to Mama Tried to all these other things.
Sure.
I love it. But as a traditional complainer, a professional complainer,
that's all right.
There's always something I like to complain about. And when it comes to customization, it's like, I've always questioned this with the chopper scene is like, is everybody so bent out of shape trying to create something that's already been done that we're not going to have an identity for 2010 to 2020?
It just keeps getting crazier. You know what I mean? With the prestige of, I want a big twin flathead motor. Mm-hmm. I hope I can obtain one before it becomes the new knucklehead motor, because a lot of people have been like, I don't want a big twin flathead motor. I want one bad.
They made a lot of those because those were the war bikes, right?
Yeah, and I don't know as much about them and I'm not going to say I'm an expert on 45s other than flathead 45s, other than I have one. I did Mike's 45 too, but it's the big twin flathead's the next oddball big twin. Mm. The knucklehead, you better sell everything you got to get one. Which I ain't saying if one didn't plop in my lap. I'm not trying to sound like I'm bashing on it, but it's an expensive motorcycle to have sitting there, And really, any of these motorcycles, if you're going to be, in my opinion, competitive, or for whatever purpose you might be showing your bike at Born Free or Congregation or Mama Tried, you better have at least a pan shovel motor.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So on a minimum, you're looking at 10, 12 grand in parts.
Yeah,
maybe depending on where you get all your parts from, but you start getting into
that's what I hate about it though. That, like, to me, I'm not trying to, I get this because I'm getting this in the performance bike world. I want the narrative to be this. I want ape hangers to be accepted on this type of bike. And you're saying that these bikes for this Born Free style builds needs to be like, or this, kinda. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but basically like there's a style or there's a cap on the years where it becomes a little bit not.
Well, I mean, that's just from what whoever has deemed acceptable.
Yeah.
But that's, that's where I believe you get the nostalgia motors from.
Okay.
You know
Makes
what I
sense.
mean?
Yeah.
That's the era of the bikes that, that are cool.
They're harder to find.
They're harder to
You
find.
know, cone shovels are pretty abundant.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, 70s, I mean, they ramped up production in that era. So
Plus all those, except for the pan shovel motor stuff, that there's still a lot of that was the rigid frame years. So when you're looking at a bike that somebody put together in the 60s or 50s, there wasn't no swing arm stuff. So the chopper platform,
was right there already.
right there.
You didn't have to hard tell it.
it literally, somebody was joking that I was talking to recently about how many different ways you can change around a 21-inch front wheel, 16 or 18-inch rear wheel, and a rigid frame, and how many different looks you can make that bike have.
Yeah.
Sissy bar, no sissy bar, tall bar, short bars, Sportster tank, Frisco tank, Wassel tank, any of those tanks in a Frisco or lowered, you can change it all around and make, that's what's fun about all this stuff is that you can change. If you're not building show bikes and you're just doing rider bikes, you change your bike up every year.
Yeah, throw a different tank on it, different style. Paint.
Yeah,
I get that, man. I don't know. I just like the idea of like, I don't know. I don't want to be a hypocrite saying it because it's going to hurt me for my performance bagger fucking stickler. Like, oh, you're not welcome. But no, I do. I see that. But I love the way Born Free is, man. Like, one thing I was going to bring up is that a lot of people are bitching about getting their money back from tickets and vendor spaces. And I get all that stuff.
Man, I feel for them guys that are putting it on.
I feel for the guy. That's what I wanted to say. It's like, I've asked this question before. If everybody was, if a Instagram thing popped up and said, "Hey guys, guess what? If you guys all don't put $1 or $20 on the table right now, every magazine's going to be gone next year," right? I think more people would have been like, "All right, man, here's $20, man. I want to be able to still get magazines."
Yeah.
So unfortunately, this COVID thing hit us all pretty hard. Others worse than others, whatever the fuck you want to say. Obviously, everything out in California got hit pretty hard based on their governing situations and stuff like that. So
right.
I want Born Free to be there. So if I'm saying this as someone that has no money in the pot, so it's kind of unfair. But I do, I feel like if it's a $40 loss that you got on this deal, man, just chalk it up to motorcycles. You know what I mean?
If you're truly a motorcycle enthusiast, and can appreciate what I don't know. I don't know those guys personally, but just from the stuff that happened with the People's Champ thing and the changes that happened when COVID hit through the middle of it, you're trying to be professional. You're given an opportunity to raise your career if you choose to do that with the competition, and you're expected to act professionally. So you have to be very understanding about what is going on internally, what's going on with why Biltwell's involved in that, what's going on with everything it takes to put on, and no one ever shared the specifics with us about what it takes to put on an event like Born Free, but people chimed in here and there. And you realize that it's an enormous undertaking to do what they have done, and for so long, man, and hats off to them, you know what I mean? But it would be nice if some people could be a little more understanding, because we all want to see it happen again.
Yeah, I mean, like that, it's Born Free is like our modern day birthing of Sturgis, you know what I mean? Like, who knows what it's going to be in 20 years, but obviously, like, the politics are always going to be there. I mean, we lost Giddy up to some bike club drama,
right? For
the most part, you know what I mean?
Right.
Fortunately, I don't think that's going to happen with Born Free. I think they're a little bit more on the professional side of things.
Yeah.
But man, it's we need those kind of shows to kind of inspire people to want to do this shit, because not everybody's going to. I was giving you my spiel on Sturgis, man. I was telling you, like, oh man, Sturgis is everything.
Right.
If I just got into bikes, maybe it would be everything for me. Maybe I don't understand it yet, right? But I need a thing like Born Free to teach me what's cool about bikes before I go to a place like Sturgis, where you're getting so many things. Like, it's like Sturgis is like walking down the strip in Vegas, and everybody. You got someone clicking cards for escorts. You got somebody taking pictures with you. You don't know how this situation works. You don't know the transactions.
Yeah.
There's just so much going on. So, like, at least if you go to Born Free, you go to Giddy Up, you go to Mama Tried, you go to these smaller, more, intimate type of shows for the sense.
Yeah.
Then you get to understand these bigger events like Sturgis, and it's like everybody's there. It's like a Walmart for motorcyclists,
Right.
But it's a good time.
Born Free, they set the standard.
Yeah,
Their event inevitably built the standard of what, the baddest bikes in the country in the vintage and chopper world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It aside from Moon Eyes Yokohama, in my opinion,
yeah.
it's the top tier of motorcycle shows. And
what about like all the aspects of like, because you seem to have come up in the same era that like Brian from TPJ came up, that early 2000s, inspired by the West Coast Chopper, building your bikes, and then you have your 10 years basically putting into this thing before you start to come into your own.
Yeah.
For the most part, right? So it's like, even though Brian doesn't build vintage choppers, but he still builds his version of a chopper.
Sure.
Why hasn't that ever evolved into a Born Free type place? You know what I mean?
with a more modern chopper.
Well, just building a bike in general. I mean, it's still a chopper. I mean, his bikes are kind of all over the place. Not in a bad way. Like he'll build something more traditional chopper. The next thing you know, he's got this Ripper Sportster. I mean, he lives in a fucking mountain.
Right.
So,
Right.
his riding is different. But I just wondered why like Born Free or that world of choppers never opened the doors to anything other than just vintage.
Well, that's part of the, in my opinion, the hot rod and motorcycle culture was so strong in Southern California without me being a person that ever lived there and dug through vintage parts with the guys and all. I just know it from a East Coast standpoint of, when you can go up the street and find a building and some dude that knew your uncle or something, and it's got the baddest parts that everybody in the country is looking for, and you can buy it for whatever said price, that's way cheaper than someone from a different part of the country can buy it from, that's got to fuel some things. It's all more readily available, and then there's all the culture of it,
Culture,
where it all stemmed from. So I think it's all the, the history and stuff coming from there. But, I don't know. There's a lot of, if you're in the know, you get all the good stuff.
Like I said, I say that because in a part of my body feels like, oh man, like you guys should know about these other badass, talented fabricators, machinists, builders, all this stuff like this. But then I fall back into that same category that I am with performance baggers and ape hangers. It's like, well, you do have a badass bike, but it's not a vintage bike. So sorry.
Man, the way I figure it is as long as you're into motorcycles.
Yeah, it is cool.
It's
but
all good.
There's just like, what it is this. It's so, to me, like I'm kind of buzzing a little bit. It's kind of weird. Only
these monster drinks are.
Yeah. I'm kind of buzzing, but no, it's kind of weird how they're similar because vintage choppers, it's like when you say the word chopper, you think for someone that doesn't know the difference, you think West Coast choppers, you think fucking OCC, you think of every crazy TV show chopper thing that was made in the 15 years ago, and you're like, oh, okay, but you're like, not those choppers. Original, find it in a barn, make them nice or make them original, make them period correct kind of bikes. So it's like a different world, even though the word chopper kind of encapsulates the whole spectrum.
I mean, it's a lot of different people's takes on stuff and a lot of evolution of technology and a bunch of people getting sick of breaking down everywhere they go, and throwing an Evo motor in a rigid frame and still have the same style configuration, and you can go put thousands and thousands and thousands of miles on that Evo motor, riding at the speed of the rest of the old bikes.
It'll last forever. I don't know, man. I think it's good that there's differences, but what it should have done is it should have inspired other people that are into other things to create events along the lines of the style of bike that they build that has the same aspects of a Born Free or a Mama Tried. You know what I mean? Instead of like, why won't you guys let me play with you?
Right. Yeah.
Which, like I said, I'm not trying to be a hypocrite, even though exactly what I just said contradicts it, but
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I don't know. That's cool.
you guys are super cool, and I want to be cool, but I don't want to do what you're doing.
And your bike's a dork bike because it's a 90s motor.
Dude, man, how many dudes get butthurt because I said that they're ape hangers or not performance baggers? Do you know how stupid that's? I feel like I have a fort in my house, and I'm not letting one of my younger brothers come in because they're not my age. Like, it's just it's a stupid thing that blocks people out. But it's like, man, like, if I let you in, then everybody gets to be this, and it waters down what is this cool thing we're doing.
Yeah, you know, and there's a part of that you want to, man, you want to have like-minded,
Exactly.
not to be an elitist about some things, but you want to have other people that are riding a Road Glide next to you have the proper gear on it.
Yeah.
For what you like doing. And to have that same conversation and not kind of an off conversation with, well, I don't really understand why you put those parts on your bike, but you're a nice guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's
That's a
weird,
good point, man.
it's a weird thing, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. So with paint and everything, I mean, you've been diving deeper down the paint, like you were saying on Jason's podcast. You were talking like there is money in paint, obviously, and there, you know, you guys had a nice conversation going back and forth between, you know, Jason's more of a builder that subs out paint. You're a builder, but also you do paint, so you kind of get a little bit of both worlds, and he has both worlds, but with a different perspective into the paint world.
Yeah. Alleyway's structured right now as, you know, locally until what will hopefully happen in the future is we'll start sending a little bit more paint in and out of town and working with some different people. There's already some stuff in the works with that. But there's good money in Jacksonville with paint. There's not really great money. Most of the bikes that I build are for famous tattoo artists all over the country.
That's cool.
You know, that are through some of my connections between Mike Wilson and other people that I've met and known for 15, 20 years. You know, they're thinking the same way I'm thinking. They have a realistic budget. You know, it's tough to do that with, and I'm sympathetic. I was there with unrealistic budgets and stuff like that, you know. So we do a handful, like 6 bikes a year, you know, like right now, on the plate is an XR 1000 restoration.
Yeah.
You know, there's what's the other one? A Road King, like a Cholo style Road King, you know, that I don't mind doing for a guy. It's nice. I don't mind doing bikes that are rideable.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, not to pinpoint one way or the other, but if it's rideable, I can stand behind it to a certain extent, you know, and a lot of repeat customers and stuff like that, you know. But we're doing some twin cam chopper frames. I dig them. I just built a frame for a guy that helped out a bunch with all the casting work on the Panhead, and it's a Zero Engineering stance twin cam chopper frame. So I took his Softail frame to save the title and the VIN numbers, and just built off the cradle. And he had a specific. I built the hardtail section so it comes at a nice arch from the axle all the way to the neck, and built it specifically with his tire and rim size and all that stuff. So we're doing that one. And Brian Buteris just built us a frame for Chris Rosenberg that works at the shop. He's doing a chopper. And we got one of Bare Knuckle Paul's narrow 49 millimeter front ends we're putting on it. And
dude, his I think he has a knuckle, right?
Oh my God, that's a beautiful bike.
God damn, dude. I sat on that thing and I immediately felt like, I was like, dude, I can get laid on this bike.
Right. It is a beautiful bike.
It's so nice.
I was so bummed that it wasn't at Lakeland. I was like, oh man, am I going to get to see that bike?
It's nice, dude.
Yeah.
I took a couple pictures of it when I was out there. It's that Midwest style, man, which I'm, you know.
Yeah.
I like to say we're in Midwest. We're kind of fucked here in Dallas.
Man, you're one of the first people that I've been in Dallas that gave me a history lesson on it. So I kind of understand a little bit more now. I was happy about that because most of the other people are like, yeah, we're in Dallas. I don't know why we're here. I'm just visiting too.
Dude, I think that over the last couple of years, Dallas is like came into its own. You know what I mean? Like we've always had cool areas, but now I think people are, I don't know if we're like ignorantly proud of it.
Yeah.
Or if we're just like, yo, man, we have a good time here, dude. Like,
I've always liked Texas. It's got a lot of cool elements, you know, semi-independent state, right?
But Texas is so big, right? So it's like, obviously, if you talk about El Paso, you're talking about Southwest.
Right.
El Paso is more Phoenix than it is Dallas.
Yeah.
Or any other part. Dallas is more, in my opinion, like a part of that Midwest kind of vibe than Houston's more South.
Yeah.
Austin's kind of its own thing. It's kind of like if everybody just came in the middle to meet there and create a unified part of Texas. It's like it's basically what it is.
It's like Asheville, North Carolina.
Yeah.
And different towns like that are, I like it because it's art based.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, there's a lot of art all around, you know, being in.
I love art, but then when people like, I've never been able to wrap my head around the hand built show. You ever been to that or seen it?
Bike show?
Yeah, hand built show.
I've heard of it. I didn't know it was in Austin.
It's in Austin. It's I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't. I don't know. It's like I hate to say it because I personally don't like it for no real solid evidence. Kind of like sometimes you meet a guy, I don't like that fucking dude. You know what I mean? It's like that simple. I don't dig it. It's
I'm not in a position to disclose any of that.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of it. Like it doesn't give me like when I've been to it twice, and it's like when I walked away from it, I wasn't like inspired. I wasn't like that was worth it.
Right.
You know, like nothing. I was like, you know what? It was kind of lame, but that one bike, it wasn't even one bike in there.
I don't know a lot about it. It's got a cool name.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, dude, it's just super trendy.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like the people that are in the show are talented as ever. I mean, as can be. Like they're very talented builders. I just don't think that the show does a good job of creating a well-rounded event that really showcases the art of building the bikes. And maybe it's the selection of bikes, and I'm more of a V-twin Harley guy. And there's like you walk in and there might be a Harley, and then there's a
they do other makes and stuff.
Yeah, too. And so like it's hard to know what they did differently on this, you know, XS 750 or 600, whatever the fuck the old Hondas are, or whatever, or is that Yamaha? I don't remember. Whatever it is, just like these old metric bikes, like I don't really know what they. Obviously, it's not like that from the factory, but I can't admire what it was to where it is now.
I'm the same way. I'm not well rounded in all of the other. Yeah. I'm a Harley guy.
Like I said, not to bash their show. It's my either ignorance to the bikes or just my lack of knowing what I'm looking at.
All shows have a certain vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Congregation show is one of my favorites.
I want to go, man.
Man, it's them dudes. It's very
Prism, right?
Yeah, it's very impressive how well organized that show is.
I heard it was like in a really cool old building that was like
the old building was a Model A factory.
Model A factory, that's right.
Then in World War II era,
came a bomb.
Hopefully I got my story straight, but this is the story that I heard and roll with. It became a bomb factory. So all those pictures that you see, or it looks like tile floor, those are 3 by 6 or 8 pieces of wood that are 3 foot deep into the ground to keep tools from dropping and sparking and blowing the place up. But the cool thing about the Congregation show is not only is it run very professionally, but they select a bunch of bikes, and it's all vintage stuff. Their vintage car selection that they have people participate in is old race 30s cars, Mercuries, you know, and it's just they're spaced out really good.
Yeah.
So that you can take a picture of them, you can walk around them really well. You know, they do a really good job of dressing the inside of the building up, and they treat everybody really good. It's got a really good vibe.
That's something me and you talked about. That's exactly one thing that's really important about, you know, these shows is right. It's like you want to have it to where it's very photographic, where it's very shareable.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So that every time someone, you know, like if the first time I actually got to see, you know, the Folsom bike that you built, the first time I get to see it is at Lakeland show. You know what I mean? Like, not to shit on Jason, I love him. But like the blue carpet doesn't really do well with the bike. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like you seeing that in like an old bomb factory now, like that, all of a sudden everybody's cell phone picture is like some model shit.
It accidentally works out super.
Yeah, and is it accidental though?
Well, probably
you know
not.
what I mean? Like
probably not.
It's just like very minute things that I think that doesn't get thought about that I didn't think about until I've experienced the very trendy place. Like I said, Oliver Peck did the Southern Throwdown, which was he would do it in the Bomb Factory, and the Bomb Factory is more like a concert venue, but still the concert venue has a vibe to it. It's got wood shiny floors, or not wood shiny, like polished concrete floors. The lighting, everything becomes like every shot that someone takes with their phone becomes like potential advertisements for the show.
They had a show in England. I can't remember what the name of it was. Chopper Show. That's in some. It looks like it. I think it's in an underground subway or something like that.
Yeah, dude.
And it
get you a little Adidas jumpsuit,
right.
come in there with a chain, and just look, dude, just go in there full.
Yeah, man. But the congregation show's a good one for sure.
Well, and I think that the chopper community, the vintage chopper mainly, they've always had their thumb on the pulse of like art, from the photography side to the T-shirt designing, the bikes, and all the other handcrafted things that come into play with choppers. I mean, from the tool leather to the casting to the the handmade parts, welding, painting, photography. Like it all goes into play. So like when you put a show together that kind of shows all that shit off very well, then like I said, it becomes like this thing that's so shareable on social media, and it blows up. You look at Chop Cult, and it's got hundreds of thousands of followers because they share all these badass pictures. Yeah. These badass pictures come from badass shops, badass shows that it's at. You know what I mean? It all kind of goes into
it's that race. It's that race of gentlemen thing.
Yeah.
How they really, really decorate all the backdrops well, as all the banners look like they were made in the 40s, and do the whole thing up. It's what makes it super cool.
Well, I think that's why people want to do it, because like that's their. Not everybody gets to go to Born Free. Not everybody gets to go to the congregation. Not everybody gets to be a part of the race of gentlemen. So some of us have to live vicariously through the follows that we have on social media. Yeah. And so how we are viewing these things is how we dictate how cool or not cool they are in our heads. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And everybody gets to replicate that in their garage and take that motorcycle ride like we're talking about with the Danny Lyon photo.
Exactly.
That, makes you feel good about yourself, especially when you put months of hard work into something, saving up, having your motor built, finding the right front end, picking all the right components. That's part of the big thing about it.
Man.
That's what customizing your own bike is, that's it.
It's the next tattoo.
Right.
When you run out of space, you just start on your bike.
Right.
Man, I love it, man. So yeah, like this bike build though, I mean, like the panhead that how was the whole, other than like obviously the shortcomings of like the way it was dealt with, like one thing you were talking about in the car ride over here that I really liked and I've been dealing with too is like, you said it pushed you to do something you didn't know you were capable of realistically, or did you know you were capable of it? I think I said that.
No. Well, you kind of start realizing what you stepped in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because my involvement with that came from Jared Barnes apprenticed with me for a year. And I like Jerry. He's a great dude. We had a lot of good times together and messed stuff up together and learned stuff. And he talked me into doing it. And he said, hey, man, dude, I know you're trying to be private, and I know you're not really like that and whatever, but, dude, you should enter this thing. And, yeah, you ain't going to make it too far in it or whatever. It is what it is, but it'll be good promotion for the business, and, it'll get you, get the name out there and stuff. So I entered my panhead as like a restoration bobber. Yeah. It was not supposed to even look anything like it did. And the motor I had was about half put back together. I had it built. That bike was a barn find that I found. I had to buy 2 shovel heads and that bike to get that bike. But it's a 51, and we built 51 cars. Yeah. So I was like, oh, I got to do this, So anyway, that project was sitting there with a knucklehead front end, wheels that period correct hubs and all that stuff. I laced wheels up to, I was just going to, as you do, you got your little project that you keep picking at for however long, and then all of a sudden it's time to kind of get it together. That's what that project was. So I did my submission, and I was like, well, we'll see how this goes. I came home and I told my wife, and I was like, hey, listen, entering this thing, I'm not going to California. Nothing will ever happen, but I just want to let you know what's going on before you see a bunch of crazy stuff going on social media.
Yeah.
So I make the cut to 25. It goes 25, 13, 6. So I made the cut to 25. I was like, oh, crap. And then you start thinking about it a little bit. And I'm like, well, if I was an invited builder, I would have absolutely have built that bike the way I was going to build it, which would have been a more blacked out bike. I was going to do the motor more of a flat and nickel finish, just a real military kind of look, real.
Is that more your style, you would say? Because that's kind of how the Folsom bike is, a little bit more.
No, those are just
monochromatic kind of thing.
I mean, I like them like that a lot, but
Yeah.
it's also, you can do it a little more economical like that. You can paint the whole frame, you can paint the whole front end, as opposed to chroming everything. So I can't remember whether it was the cut to 13 or after I got to 13 that I was like, man, I want to do this. I'm in. We're jumping all the way in. And then I realized, crap, I got to chrome this bike out. I got to make a really flashy bike because now we're in show bike world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in the process of doing that, I realized that I had really screwed myself with that platform of motorcycle. I'm capable of doing frame modifications and making whatever kind of frame I needed to make for that to make it look of caliber of the people that were doing so much more to their bikes.
Yeah.
So I'm already a shoe in the contest, but I already got my entry in the contest with the most basic platform that I kind of can't modify.
Yeah.
Looking back with the COVID postponements, I could have got a whole nother frame and kept changing the configuration. But at the time, we didn't think Born Free was going to get canceled. So complete makeover of the bike change. And then that was supposed to have stock. That frame was pristine. And having restored some frames, man, it had the gas tank mounts, sidecar loops, brake crossover. Didn't have the floorboard tabs. And I had already been to a swap meet, bought the floorboard tabs from some guy that made real nice castings. That bike was going to be a restoration that I rode around as a bobber. And someday when I get older, I was going to make it a real 51. I had the tanks, like I said, doing the gas tank restoration on them, the whole deal. And threw all those parts to the wayside and like, now what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And how are we going to make this better than, like a Lee pedal for a foot clutch? That's just round stock.
Yeah.
And I'd already having been up to the congregation show, they make a real nice foot clutch pedal. I'm like, well, the premise of the show, in my opinion, if you really want to get taken seriously, was build as much stuff as you possibly can.
Yeah.
So how am I going to take all of those common parts and work with different materials and change them up? So that's with like the foot controls, with them being all stainless, square stock, sleeved for round stock to slide into it. So when you look at it, it's not just regular cookie cutter stuff. There's a lot more thought planned into them, using the torsion springs so there's no visible springs and all that stuff to re-engineer, all those little subtleties that you realize you have to do all that.
Yeah.
And mind you, you make all that stuff 4 times.
Yeah. I've heard stories about that where you're like, what was Jesse James's like famous words like, if it ain't right, no matter how many hours you got into it, start over.
Yeah.
Some shit like that.
That's, well, back to what we were talking about the paint stuff, how you were held to a higher caliber of paint with the way things were competitive around here in Dallas for that time period. Well, same with there. You know where that thing's going.
Yeah. And
you don't want somebody like Max Schaff or Jason Ferez or whoever looking at your bike who's already kind of through channels might or might not hit you up saying, dude, it's going to be a cool bike.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. And so now you're expecting me to put something together cool. Like, it better be cool. Like, the foot controls, I have about a week in each side.
And you said, like, on Jason's podcast where you were really having to, because you're running a full-time business still. Like, you're still, painting bikes and doing repair work and working on other people's bikes too. And, like, how did you find the time to fit in this project within the year? I mean, when did you start officially on the bike?
I think we started December.
Yeah, because that's when they start calling it, right?
I think it was something like that.
And so, you only have...
Well, at that time, you're kind of being realistic with yourself.
Yeah.
And you're going, well, okay, I'm going to fab a bunch of stuff up and see if I make the next cut. Like that exhaust was on the outside of the frame, I believe, when I made the cut to the 13. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, well, that's got to change. We got to do something crazy with it. So let's notch the oil tank and squeeze it in between the frame and the rear wheel, which isn't uncommon to see.
Yeah.
But I've only seen it once or twice other than mine where it goes through and past the sissy bar, mm-hmm. which I got so much design time and that stuff. But, I mean, to answer your question, at that point when it's on, I had to basically buy the shop for a week or so. Because most projects, I like to, from 6 a.m. till 8 in the morning, I work about 6 to 3 every day. From 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., I work on personal projects, achievements, goals you're trying to make some progress on, whether it's art or welding aluminum or something you're having some issues with, or fixing a problem if you made a mistake.
That's a perfect thing you said, because that's kind of the new thing that I've adopted, that I've been, because I felt like I've had shortcomings in like pinstriping and being able to work with a pinstriping brush, or name it, computer program I'm trying to perfect for videos or whatever, right? But I do know that if you just put hours in every day, or put time in every day, even if it's like 30 minutes, it's like working out. If I just did 30 minutes a day, maybe this would be gone. You know what I mean?
I feel the same way.
Yeah. Wish I had your body. I feel like a chick now. No, but like that daily thing, right? So, we were talking about the new guy I'm hiring on. It's like I got to teach him everything. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking like that now. I'm like, okay, man, I'm going to try to get him to where I am with certain things in months rather than the 10, 15 years it took me to get to here.
Yeah.
And maybe that is like every day something he has to sand and buff something. Mm-hmm. And then after 2 weeks, man, that he's pretty fluid with his buffer.
Yeah. Same
thing with like pinstriping. Man, if I just pulled a couple lines every day with a pinstripe brush, if I just like had like a sheet that had like A, B, C, D, E, F, G all the way to Z, and I just did that every day for an hour, like you said, at the end of 2 months, I'd be able to do that without, without the tracing, or without those certain things. I'll have the muscle memory down to do an S.
Well, and it was important for me to learn to not get discouraged if you don't have 2 hours one morning, and you can only do a little bit, or maybe you skip a day. And it's hard to stay focused to keep doing it, but that's all those raffle tanks that I did to fund, all the Born Free stuff, and the bike build stuff. That was planned art progression of taking things from a line drawing to how can I make this? How can I attempt to make this hold its own weight with whatever? I started. I think I was telling you after I did the Brush Masters in 2018. They stress draw everything. Yeah. Don't copy nothing, whatever. And I realized, I'm like, man, if I want to be taken seriously at some point in time, when hopefully I'm good enough, it's going to have to be this certain way. And I transitioned to, I got an iPad and had to learn the Procreate program and how you can manipulate that, which is a very useful tool for painting bikes for the dealership. Yeah. And you do a consultation with a customer, you can pull up whatever kind of road glide. You can color that thing in.
We get to my house later, I'll show you my setup on the iPad, how I do all my templates for the bikes. It's I use Adobe though. I use Draw.
It's probably the same thing.
It's pretty similar, but I think Draw is vector based.
Right.
And I think Procreate may or may not be. I'm not sure. I have Procreate as well, but
according to Chris, he has some kind of program we can convert everything to a vector file. Okay. I don't know exactly what it is. So
that's why I say like the vector file. So say you send me a tank, right? And it's an odd shape. It's not the same shape as like a traditional Sportster tank or Fat Bob, whatever. So I'll take a profile, and then I'll take a 3/4 shot and a profile shot. And then I'll just outline them, and I have the sketch so I can work on my lines, how they come across. Which, as a painter, like that saves you a lot of time with tape, not having a ball of tape this fucking big.
Sure.
Trying to figure out what you're doing.
It doesn't get you. where I'm at with it. It won't get me exactly there to get a professional enough look, but you exercise a bunch of things you don't want to do.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I like about it.
Sometimes if I get a line drawing down, like I love these graphics and I got these colors, but I don't know where to put the colors. Sometimes as you're drawing the shit, like I'll be drawing on the, I'll be sketching the lines out for the graphics on the bike and I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm seeing this all red down here. And then we're going to do it with a blue pinstripe and a little bit of champagne right here. Fuck, this is going to be dope. I see it. But sometimes I'm like, I don't know, man, but I love these lines.
Yeah.
And so then I'll just make a copy of all the lines, and then I'll just sit there and, all right, let's try red here and this here. Well, just to be safe, let me swap them on this other sketch that this copy. And then I'm like, all right, yeah, my original idea is the one I wanted to go with.
try it with your purple theory.
Yeah.
Whenever I did one of the raffle tanks that has purple pinstriping,
Yeah.
I knew in my head I saw that I wanted that purple with that. It's the paint huffer, whatever the black metal flake is.
The space gray.
No, it's just all black.
Okay.
But it's I can't remember what the name of it is. But it's that and it's Oriental Blue Flames. And I saw purple in my head and I went through a bunch of different things on the Procreate, how you can dial your color in.
Yeah.
And it's the same color as some one shot. But I tried it and all the one shot colors I had. And you can take a photo of your one shot can and hold your finger on it and drag it over your color palette.
Oh, you
and
can?
throw that exact color line on it.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I found out none of them work. You know what I mean? And that the purple worked.
Dude,
but,
some, like Jeremy, Lucky Strike, we were talking about him. He has his color palette for his paint jobs. If you really dissect a lot of us, Boosted Brad, Jeremy, you, I think guys like Poland, he just deals with so many different styles that it's hard to kind of categorize him and what
Sure.
really like his paint jobs are colorful, right? So is Jeremy's, to be safe.
Oh yeah.
But there's certain things that you can tell in Jeremy's paint jobs that's his, like, this is me colors. He uses cream a lot, and whites a lot, and he does a really good job with those. And it when I see those colors, even if, like, I'm not quite sure what the design is, I'm like, oh, is that Jeremy over there?
Yeah.
I use gray in everything or silver or like that kind of off, like I like to tell people like my style is that that first thing you learn how to do in Photoshop where you make a gray photo and then make the lips red.
Right.
I like splashes of color.
It looks good, man. It pops.
I try.
I'm trying to get away from brown.
Dude, I've had a hard time shooting brown.
I love it.
Candy root beer is like one of the hardest colors over like a silver base to just
like it over
make
silver.
even. Yeah.
I like it over gold.
Gold? That's
Gold.
probably a better move.
I love it over gold because then the tangerine blends.
Yeah.
Because the House of Color root beer works off of all the beginning gradations of tangerine, so you can drop it easier with concentrate, But yeah, man, the first bike that I got that ever had any magazine coverage was a brown metal flake shovel head. Nothing special. I don't even know why it was an American Iron, even though thank you for having it in there.
Yeah, appreciate it.
But it was just a basic brown and black with a cream pinstripe. I had a Dodge truck.
Classic colors, man.
It looked black, but it was metal flake brown. My GMC truck I got right now it's called Smoky Quartz. So it's like an olive brown, which I love that color. It's almost like one of the blends you did with your Champagne Daddy on your bike.
Okay, yeah.
But it's the whole thing. But I'm about to paint Bo Crum that did all the videos for us.
Yeah.
I'm painting his bike. And he wants the root beer brown and the gold fades and stuff. I'm like, dude, you can't go wrong with it. But I don't want to be.
That's also that's you though. I mean, like,
yeah.
I think that's the thing that sucks about all of us painters is that like we get good at certain things and we don't want to be stuck with it. Like that's me. Like I don't want to be the gray guy, but I'm fucking good at gray, man.
Yeah, but how many variations from silver to Oriental blue to cobalt blue are you going to do?
That's
what's in between those to give you another color.
Think about it like this. Think about it like, so for the last 3 years, most of our work has been Silver Flake based and then built up in candies from there. Silver Flake gives you the tone for the 12 candies that there are.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah.
You have to figure out other ways to make these colors work, and whether that's using a metallic, like just a, like sometimes we'll use Galaxy Gray, like a gray metallic that's not as flaky as flake, and then you put Candy Red over silver and over that gray, and you get two different very nice versions of Candy Red.
Yeah.
So it contrasts well, but at the same time, it's like, when customers hit me up about doing helmets and they have like factory colors they want to work with, I have to be like, all right, I'm down, but you do realize that my helmets pop because of flake.
Right.
And your stuff does not have flake. Like I can't make what's like a pop what's that lime green like Mustang color that everybody was doing for a while.
No metal flake color.
Yeah, it's just like a pearlish kind of
Yeah.
very, very fine metallic.
I know which one you're talking about.
I can't do that in flake, dude.
No.
So if you want that color, we can do it, but it becomes like it's managing expectations, what I always say like we're doing, because they have, they always say like, I like this, but I want this. And it's like, okay, well, I have to manage that expectation of like, he wants this, but this is not that.
And the metal flake gives you that expectation.
Exactly.
As
That
soon
metal
as-
flake gives you that pop, that dance, all that shit. And it's and on a helmet, like you can get away, like a helmet or a chopper, you can get away with some gaudy shit that you can't do on a car.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
So it's like you kind of,
Fortunately, the couple that Ironhead chopper of Chris Rosenberg's.
Yeah.
It's the one I did the goat head on the top, and it's mustard.
dude, mustard's hot right now.
And he was like,
you got a mustard shirt on.
dude, he saw a Land Rover because there's an auto body shop, Jason Martin's shop, Lucky 13 is next to me. So he does some older cars, restorations and stuff, and he does a lot of collision work. But there was a Land Rover out there, and Chris came cruising by. He's like, "What do you think about that Land Rover cover?" And it was like, I don't know a lot about Land Rovers, but I would imagine it's the 60s or 70s, and it's that mustard. So his paint is mustard with brown metal flake and black pinstripes.
That's dope. Dude, I feel like I've been getting, you know how like Google hits you with ads, right? Because you said like, oh, I wanted a Land Rover, and then we open our phone.
It'll be as soon as we open our phones.
Exactly. So when my buddy N7 Kyle started saying mustard's so hot right now thing, it was going on the internet, then I rode to New York for the first time, and me and my buddy Steve were riding around New York, and all the license plates are those navy blue with those kind of mustard yellow license plates. And I'm like, fuck, dude, I love that.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it gives you like that, to me it gives me that, like that old OD green that Harley used on the early model bikes.
Yeah. It's called, well, there's a couple different greens. One's like a forest green, and then one's like an olive green.
Yeah. I like that. Is it a knock?
I don't know.
Oh, well, in this world of like pop and paint and pearls and stuff, sometimes that navy blue and mustard green just like, or mustard yellow just goes like, hey man, I'm OG. I've been here forever.
Right.
And I work. You know what I mean? So like I've been incorporating like yellow, like that version of yellow pinstripes into my work, and I've never used yellow in my life.
Yeah.
So it's like something that I'm like slowly dipping my toe in, but I dig it. Because like none of us want a yellow Corvette, right?
Nobody wants a yellow.
Yeah,
Corvette.
nobody wants a yellow anything, but there's certain versions of yellow where it's like, nah, bro, it's gold.
Right.
Don't yell at me. It's gold.
Right.
All right. Like your shirt, like I'd say, oh, that's gold.
What's the House of Color base that's not the Gamma? Is it Gamma Gold?
Gamma gold is one, yeah, and solar gold.
The solar gold is a really weird gold.
It's not a gold you
opinion.
spray bare. You have to
Yeah,
put
it can't
candy
hold
over
its
it.
own.
Yeah.
I did a Triumph that I based the tank, and I did candy apple red flames.
Yeah.
Maybe. No, I did candy apple red panels with gold pearl ghost flames. And the candy apple came out good, but I remember I was spraying that gold on. I was like, that's a weird gold, man. I hope this looks right.
Yeah.
But I like that. I like that Harley gold, the base for their candies.
Which, like old school or newer school?
It's a metal flake base. So it's like almost a brownish gold. It's got tiny microflake in it.
I think I know what you're talking about.
It
For like the hard candy, like the ones they use for red and stuff like that on Sportster tanks and shit.
I got it because I did a crazy that crazy gold heavy flake factory custom paint they did. It was left over from that, and I based some stuff with that. I like that color a lot.
Yeah, man, I've been, you know, like color combinations really kind of push my vibe real hard. So when I first rebranded from Live Fast Customs to the Fast Life Garage, me and my grandfather were going down a C10 truck thing, and this is like 2014. And I, you know, C10s 2014, you know, seafoam green,
Like some seafoam green.
the baby blue color, like those colors were really like speaking to me. So like when the first time I rebranded and relogoed this thing I got here, I was using turquoise and purple. So like that white bike I was showing you on the wall down there,
Oh, right.
turquoise and purple pinstripes on there. And then that kind of evolved into purple always stuck from there on
Yeah,
out.
right.
But then I go through phases where like certain color combinations really kind of dictate this era or this generation of my generation of painting or whatever the fuck I would say. That doesn't make any sense. But
No, it does.
you know.
Well, for a time period.
Yeah, time period.
I want to try my 83 FXR is that new Toyota Tacoma blue and oxblood. And then I did variegated leaf flames over all of it. And I did oxblood traditional FXR panels on it. And I want to do like a variation of that, but a little more extreme with maybe a Brandywine candy and some different color, like just crazy blue.
Do you ever like do like test panels for any of these type of like?
Man, I was doing really good for a while, and I need to get back on it. I always used to shoot a test panel for customers when we were doing a super crazy paint job. And if the test panel didn't get too butchered in the bad idea department, I would dress it up and do like on the corners of the panel and do like an alleyway thing on it and sign it. And, you know, they'd put it on their mantle or whatever they do with it, you know. But it depends on how hard I'm experimenting. If I really need to make sure some stuff goes right, like with all that crack paint stuff.
Yeah, I was going to ask you off the air. That stuff is like, I want to learn how to do it, but I don't want to do it. Like, I don't think I can incorporate it in my work, but I hate not knowing how to do something.
We'll talk about it, but that stuff is very hard to manipulate as far as making it do what you want to do. And the variations of colors are very strange. And I experimented with tinting over some of the colors in contrast where you dirty it up so much in the process.
Yeah.
The cream on Mike Wilson's Knucklehead was a standard vivid white before that process happened. So
is it like a fire thing that you're burning it?
Nah.
You can tell me later.
Yeah, I'll tell you later. I was told to hold on to that one by a couple people. So,
dude, you know when the leaf resurgence came up, like maybe 4 years ago, when everybody started like getting to where leafing became very predominant in our industry. It's always been around, but when it was just like, yo, like everybody's doing it now, it was like that too. Like nobody wanted to share the secrets and stuff. And then of course somebody's like, fuck it, I'm gonna do a YouTube video on it. It's like, all right, now everybody can do it.
It's still like the conversation me and you were having.
Yeah.
The first thing I asked Jeremy when I saw him in Daytona at the V-Twin Visionary show.
Yeah.
And Jeremy was one of the instructors at Brushmasters, was very nice enough to not know me from Adam and give me a ride to the airport at 4:30 or something crazy in the morning, to the point that I was like, is this dude going to show up? We only talked for a second.
He's a good dude.
You know? He definitely is an absolute great dude. I love Jeremy, you know, but picks me up, and we're riding to the airport, and I bought him some Dunkin' Donuts. He gave me a quick pinstriping lesson on some fundamentals that I should have already known. But we were talking about leafing then, and I still, with a lot of experimenting, still was picking his brain in Daytona about engine turning and leaf application. And all that stuff that we were talking about. It's an ongoing. It's so tricky.
It's one of those like things like you were saying about the mooring, like getting at 6 o'clock, and if you just start doing a couple of little lines, not the white ones, but
right.
If you do a couple of those lines every morning, just like clockwork, then you understand the process better.
Yeah.
And I sucked at gold leaf. To this year, my goal of 2020 was to get down the gold leaf.
Yeah.
Like consistently. Like I could get away with it like every once in a while, like, I fucked it up here, I fucked it up there, but I can fix it and it'll work. But consistently, like I know I can gold leaf this whole bike one time and I'm gonna walk away and it's fucking good. It took me a while.
I did a paint job about that time period when I told you my friend Chad Martella and I were doing the Eastern FXR and Dyna company. He was taking a bike to Sturgis, and I was like, man, this has got to be the best paint job I know how to do. And I did the craziest paint job I could possibly do, and I did 3/4 inch engine turn silver leaf pinstriping around, or a panel around all the panels. It was subpar. The pinstriping looked okay.
Good thing about Instagram, though, is they still look like spins.
However, he turned out he didn't want colors on his bike anymore. He's like, man, I'm a blacked out guy. I'm like, dude, you're killing me.
Yeah.
Are you serious? Like, I tried as hard as I could on this paint job. Anyway, we did some swapping around. Dude drove all the way, I don't know what part of Texas, and the guy was super nice. He drove there to buy the bike and did not buy it because my engine turning was not up to par. I was like, I'm like, bro, I hooked you up and did a bro deal on that paint job, first of all. And secondly, you took the pictures. I mean, I don't know. I never claimed that it was whatever, but it is one of those deal breakers. Either it's good or it's not. You know what I mean? And
that's what's crazy about doing all that stuff, man. It's like, I've done things over the past that I'm super not proud of, and you know what? Perfect example. So, Big Trouble's bike, the Dyna that he had in the show, I hadn't seen that bike since it left, and something happened to the leaf while it was in their position. It wasn't something they did. Something that I did ended up reacting differently, and it discolored the leaf on the fender.
Wow.
And I didn't notice it until I was there in person, and I saw it. I was like, fuck. I was like, dude, you got to send me this fender right now. Like, first off, it's like my most liked paint job ever. It's the most simple thing I've ever done. But the leaf is fucked up. And I'm like, I got to fix that. You know what I mean? Like, quick.
Yeah.
And he still hadn't sent me the fender. So if you're listening, motherfucker, send me the goddamn fender, Mark.
Right.
But no, it's like, it's scary because, like, that is one of my more liked paint jobs. And I don't want people... I don't mind that they know that something got fucked up. I don't mind that because it happens, but I do want to fix it as soon as possible because I don't know what happened. And that's another thing. I thought it was like, because it was on the front fender, it was a carbon fender. I thought maybe the tire rubbed it because it's kind of in the area of the tire where it would be like right here where the leaf is.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe it was rubbing and it just burned it, which could cause some problems with the leaf. Right. But I was like, I don't know, man. Something isn't right here.
I always question the size adhesion.
Exactly.
To a certain extent.
It didn't come loose.
I mean?
It just, it almost absorbed all the reflectiveness of the leaf.
Every time, I'm sure you've done a million times, that you clear coat over some leaf, and then you have some of it lift from under.
You know what the lifting is? It's leaf laying on top of leaf.
Yeah.
I'll show you how to take care of that one.
Either way, it's not good. And I'm always like, man, this is a big patch of leaf. And you
can't tape over it.
Right. I
It'll
sure
rip it
hope
out.
it's stuck really good. Yeah.
It's such a finicky process, man. It looks so good because it's like it's something that we can't. It gives the idea of like a chrome or anodizing or something, even though it's not quite as shiny as that. But it's way shinier or reflective than we can make with paint.
It's very significant to being done correctly, and you can see it when it's a little off. We can.
Yeah, we can. The worst part is like when you got dudes that because when you test the leaf, you're supposed to drag your finger across this glue. Some dudes just stick their thumb in it and they got their fingerprints all over it, and then you stick the leaf down and you see their fingerprints through the leaf. I'm like, man, all right, man.
I put when I was at Brushmasters and Masa from Center Roots, was coaching me through it. I laid it on way too heavy, which was a weird thing. The beginning of that whole interaction, they moved some people up to the front table. They were like, hey, clearly some people here know what's going on, some people don't. So we're going to select some people, and you need to come up here and sit at the table, and you can kind of move forward. And so I think his name's Pedro. He goes by El Bombo on Instagram. I had just met him that morning. He's sitting a person over from me. I had met Boosted Brad at that event. He's sitting, no, he was sitting to my right or left, and then Homer Sands. I'm in between all of them. And we start like, you guys, the guys that know what they're doing. I'm looking around going, these guys do, you know. But I was hard pressed on like, I really like Masa's work and stuff, you know. So I laid.
His style is very unique. You know what I mean?
Man,
Center Roots on Instagram. If y'all haven't followed that dude, he's the man. He's setting trims. Same thing with the King's Custom out there or something. There's a couple dudes out of Japan, Thailand area. Yeah. Not that they're like close, but you know,
right
in that
world. In my mind, I feel like they are
like neighbors, dude. Like they can fucking
right around the corner. Just like, take a bicycle ride.
It's like Jacksonville to fucking South Carolina,
right? Yeah, and Masa engraves and does blown glass, you know, glass leafing for shop signs, everything, you know. But anyway, and what he told me that day kind of resonated through. Definitely when I was apprenticing Jared on, you know, we were waiting on the size to dry. I'm like, so what about now? Can we lay it down? What about now? He's like, nah, we wait. I'm like, all right. We're like 45, 50 minutes deep into it. Yeah. You know, and he would keep saying, like, when he was showing me how to do some pinstriping exercise, and I'd get about 5 of them right and come back, and I was so proud of him. He's like, oh, very nice. But again, you do again. I'm like, oh, awesome. I still suck. You know,
he's got that Mr. Miyagi wisdom.
Yeah, man.
You know, one thing about Center Roots in his work, he did this Serious Pride bagger a couple years ago. It was like that kind of turquoisey Oriental blue. Well, he did. Mind you, this is my early days of panel work. You know, when I first kind of started it, and he had made this like fish scale that was kind of like an exotic fish scale is what it was. Yeah. And so I dissected it through Instagram and I recreated it on my FXR. You can see in the top.
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, one thing that I've always done, and hopefully this works for the people that I learn tricks from, but I always get online and when I post it, I'm like, check out this new trick that I learned from so-and-so.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah. And, you know, like, I mean, I do it every once in a while now. You know what I mean? It's a really nice design that kind of, you know, helps kill space, basically. But, you know, the dude, he was the first one to ever do it. I copied him, and I love it, and I got it from him, and that's how that's supposed to work.
You wouldn't believe so many innovative ideas that me and Brad spent some time with them. Yeah. Just really, nobody really knew who he was. It's crazy. So much. I mean, some people did, some people didn't, you know, but we harassed the crap out of him. Thank God he put up with us, you know, but he showed us how his brushes are made. And, you know, we picked his brain about, well, you know, we saw this on your Instagram page. How'd you do this? And he's digging in his phone, showing us his personal videos of his trial and error processes and sharing that with us.
He put up if you put up a video like an actual series that you had to pay to subscribe to, I'd do it. Yeah, just for the. I don't really need physical instructions. If I see you do one thing, especially paint related, right? If I see you do it, I can do it. Yeah, not to your level, but I can. I can attempt it and probably get some kind of results.
You get the gist of it.
Yeah. So he does that too with that where he puts all that like more opal leaf down, and then he'll come back and put some kind of. No, it's like a different leaf. I don't know what the word is, but he'll come back with like this solution that he puts on there, and then he'll airbrush around it, wipe it off, come back and do another brush stroke of it, and it creates this like...
It's like a swirly...
I wanted to say it was like an opal kind of style, but I don't think that's the word it is. But it's really nice looking.
They put him up there at the beginning of, I think it was like the first day, each instructor had their... You know, there's a series of instructors doing their classes, and people were going up to a board and drawing freehand, And there was a guy from up there somewhere who was an engineer. He was a Japanese dude. I forget his name, but he was super talented and badass. But he kind of stepped in to be interpreter. And when Masa got up there to draw, he drew a skull freehand, and they did the to proportion of which way the skull's looking and everything.
Yeah.
And man, you'd hear a pin drop in that room, and it was, everybody, all the instructors, everybody just sitting there waiting to see him make some magic, and it was awesome. I got video of it.
That's cool.
It's really cool, But the guy was like, he knows every angle of the skull. He doesn't need reference to.
I know what you mean by that. I mean, maybe not so much now, but 10 years ago, dude, I could do a skull any way you want. I just knew it. And plus, like many people started doing whenever realism started to take over from fantasy skulls.
Right.
Like we all had a little skull that we could take pictures. And then if you turn the lights out and you flash the light, it makes it more dramatic.
Right.
And then you recreate that. So I mean, the skull thing, in a way I miss it and I wish I did it more because I'm good at it. But at the same time, it's like, it doesn't have the same impact when people see a really, really good airbrush skull or even a pinstripe skull as they do when they see like Kenny Powers on a helmet.
Right.
When people see, oh, fuck, I love that show, fuck that noise.
Well, the portraits that you do are, I mean, they ain't a lot of people can throw it out there like that. It's pretty impressive.
I appreciate that. It's a weird thing to like have, but it's a love-hate relationship because it brings me the most anxiety of everything I do in the paint shop.
Yeah.
Because I don't do it every day. And so like, I know it's in there. I know I can produce something every once in a while, but man, you just don't know.
I don't know too many tattooers that are comfortable with portraits. Most of them are like, I do them, but
the tattooing is like, you can't erase. Like I can start over.
Right.
But no, it's a very, Jeremy said it best a long time ago on the podcast. He goes, it's an emotional roller coaster. Mm-hmm. You're very nervous when you're starting out a portrait on a helmet because more than anything, you want it to look like the person you're trying to create.
Right.
And based on how much detail in your reference photo is about, basically it's giving you how much things you can copy that give it the things it needs to become that person, right?
Sure.
So like this helmet, I just posted it yesterday. I had to end up doing this guy's tattoo, which was a cross with his dad's initials. His dad passed away in the 90s, right? And they had like no real good photos of him. And I tried to enhance the photo on Photoshop.
Right.
Tried to bring detail out, but it was just so flat. There was no dynamic range in the photo to pull any shadows or highlights out. And I was like, man, I can give a wing at it, but I know that when I send you this picture, when you look at this printed picture right here, this blown up and pixelated, you can see what it is. Oh, that's your dad, right? But when I'm airbrushing that and I can't see where his eyelid starts and stops and his eyebrow starts and his nostrils stop from here to his cheeks, like
right,
it's going to be affected on the image and it's not going to look like him, and I'm going to do you a real bad disservice. And that's what happens with a lot of photos, any kind of photography from before digital photos and now. Yeah. Unless it was like I did a Muhammad Ali once, but he had professional photos done, so there's high-res images of that.
Right.
Versus like all those badass TV shows from back in the day, especially the 90s, when they didn't have good quality cameras to take pictures of shit. So my Samuel Jackson's based on someone else's painting. That's not even the picture of him in the movie. Yeah. Because I couldn't find a good picture of him to blow up. Right. You know how bad I want a fucking Rick James, Dave Chappelle helmet? I want one really fucking bad. To the point where I almost was going to pay someone that's better at it. Right. Like Steve Gibson or something, or even Ryan Townsend. Yeah. Those dudes are they airbrush all the time. So not to say because they do that, they're better, but they're
practiced.
They're practiced. So they can kind of interpret things that I can't because I don't do it every day. Or better yet, they can interpret things that I can't because they're fucking better than me. You know?
I mean, there's so much stuff in the art background that the people that are learned artists they got the little tidbits.
Yeah.
that help out here and there, you know, like that's what the art that I started talking about that I transitioned to whenever my friend Mike Wilson comes in town.
Yeah.
If I can plan out, this didn't really happen through the Panhead build, when I was doing art projects in the morning when I had time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'd be like, hey, can you pop in for a second? Because I got some stuff that looks kind of right, but he's like, right now he's showing me where to put highlights.
Yeah.
Just a tiny bit of white here and there and different things that make it pop, and, you know, just trying to progression.
Well, what's this thing? Because you started talking about it on Jason's podcast, this documentary that you and your friends were working on. They got put on. Was it put on hold for COVID or the Born Free build?
No, it was put on hold. We did a bunch of filming, and it's by a guy, Bo Crum, that was a videographer for. He was basically, Mike Peterson is from Jacksonville, Florida. He's a pro skater, and Bo and Mike were very close friends. They were like you called them grommets when we were growing up. They're younger skater kids, you know, and they grew up to become street skaters. And Bo has obviously a lot of experience in videography, and he wanted to do a documentary on a lot of guys that used to skateboard and got into Harleys, the Max Shafts. I mean, before
You
Max
name
Shaft,
it, yeah.
Jason Jesse, you know, was very influential to myself and a lot of other people with the motorcycle stuff and music, not only from people that played music, but types of music you listen to, punk rock scene, how listening to music as you create something can create a certain vibe and a mindset on, you know, I listen to Fu Manchu when I paint. Works for me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know what I listen to? It's embarrassing.
Who?
I like chick music. Like,
Oh, yeah.
so I think I've already said it before, but there's this band called Smoke Season, and it's super poppy women singing.
That's weird.
I don't.
Hey, whatever works.
I don't, dude. It's kind of like background music. Not.
Yeah.
I mean, they're good tunes in my opinion. Like good. It ain't shit that, like, if me and you're gonna leave here, I'm gonna throw in the car.
Right.
You know, it's like me and you're not gonna listen to Brian McKnight on the way to bike night tonight.
Right.
So, but no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Now the Fu Manchu, I know my friend Brian that has French Kiss, the painter. He told me he listens to Fu Manchu and Caius and stuff like that, like blues, metal, rock stuff, you know. But anyway, the documentary, we started filming right before the People's Champ thing, and we realized that getting through it, we filmed a lot of stuff about what goes on around the shop and you know, just working on stuff. And we stopped because another story was developing in the middle of it. And if COVID would have never happened, Bo would have flown out to California and filmed me riding the bike in whatever capacity.
Yeah.
All that stuff would have happened. So we're finishing that up. We did a little bit more filming, I think it was 3 weeks ago. We're going to do a little bit more riding footage, and it just tells a story of, you know.
Is it more than just you in there? Is there other people, or is it kind of just following what you were doing?
This particular one, it just covers like kind of my story. And we were debating on getting some other people to interview me because I know some of the older East Coast pros.
Yeah.
And I think we're just we spent so much time filming where I think we're just gonna wrap it up. But before COVID hit, we were originally gonna do a party that was gonna be like an art showcase. And I had it arranged where we were gonna air the documentary. Some bands would play, my band would play, some other skater bands would play. And then I contacted some photography artists from all over the East Coast that were from my time period of when vert was popular on the East Coast that took pictures, and there was 4 or 5 that were going to showcase.
Yeah, I think you just posted some recently.
Yeah. That was of a good friend of mine, Steve Pomberg, that used to live in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And he's an artist and a photographer from Atlanta, and he was going to come down because he has photos of, you know, I was like, well, you only got so much space, display as many as you want. But we're going to basically do a photography art deal where, like, Jim Arbogast, that takes a lot of photos for me and stuff. That guy's been around. I mean, he's got early AC/DC Bon Scott photos of them playing like at some dive bar in front of him and stuff like that, and just let it be a real art. You know, we can't really have skateboarding there, but kind of let it be that kind of thing. And apparently the way Bo's going to do it is that I'll be the first of, I think he's going to do one on Mike Peterson, because Mike rides, he's a Dyna guy now.
Nice.
And, you know, kind of let it go from there and just, you know, evolve.
So was he planning on putting them like on YouTube, or is he going to like release them through like other channels?
We're going to, he's trying to figure out the format right now, because we were going to do a local release, and then it was going to obviously be on Alleyway's got a YouTube channel, and share it somehow in a format like that where people can see it. And
man, for me, man, like I said, this whole year has been like the art that I want to put out is more the visual medium, like creating like short films, documentary type stuff or whatever. But it's like you start thinking of all these cool shots and ideas, but then you like, all right, but what am I going to say?
That was the hard part about getting, you know, the interview process with a lot of that was you're being asked a question about what gives you a feeling, how a motorcycle feels to ride, you know, whatever kind of, you know, obviously Harley's with us, but like we were talking about between the FXRs and an old bike, and that same feeling about hauling ass on a skateboard, on a vert ramp at a skate park, or down a, you know,
bombing a hill or something.
Yeah, bombing a hill or whatever, and that same rush, and how that all works in the same capacity as maybe the rush of playing music live on stage. You know, that, oh man, shit's about to be crazy, and then you get through the first 2 songs as you're performing live, and you're like, oh, and then you're in the zone. Maybe you're in the same zone as when you're just like kind of zen riding your chopper and everything's purring just right. Yeah. Or, you know, whatever. But it was hard to describe that, you know, but that's really
that's something that you would have to say that 100 times and write it 100 ways, and then find the Cliff Notes soundbite version of that sounds really good out of your mouth. That's short, sweet, and to the point.
But everybody that's done one of all 3 of those things, including yourself, when you're like, or bombings, you know exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, exactly. And it's more something to bring out and showcase for all the like-minded people that will get the same thing, that are already kind of doing it. Yeah, you know, we're just talking about it.
You know, the one thing about skateboarding that I find the most relative to motorcycles for me is here in Dallas, like we have downtown Dallas, right? So what we used to do when I was a kid and I was one with the car is I would pick up all the other kids and we would go to downtown Dallas about 2 a.m., 3 a.m., right? Park the car, and we used to have this spot on top of this rooftop. We used to call it the rooftop, and it was just like kind of soft but still skatable. And so you could do gaps and rails and all this shit. People would bring little, you know, parking things up there, and we just had a good time. But then there was marble ledges and stairs all over downtown Dallas. Yeah. And I just remember being there as kids, you know, skating this fucking ledge for 3 hours, and the sun's coming up, and people are showing up to go to work because it's Tuesday. Right. And, you know, it's just like you're in this world of like, you're doing rad shit, and you're a part of society, but not really. You know, it's what it feels like when you ride a bike, man. Like you.
Another part of that is that was from the perspective of doing it solo. The other perspective is doing it with your friends. Yeah. So that's the same feeling of bombing that hill. Like in Jacksonville, we went street skating pre-handrail and stuff like that. We go to all the parking garages downtown.
Same thing we did,
That's what I thought you were going to say about that. And you get chased down by the security guys and all this stuff. But we play games where we'd roll up on each other, taking the curves, and try to pull each other's shoelaces. And
that's some road rash shit.
You know, like real Mad Max stuff. Yeah. But either way, the camaraderie and the connection you were having with the same like-minded people transitions into riding in a pack of 2 people. Think about it.
How awkward is it when someone wrecks, right? Like, say you're skating and someone has a bad spill, and you're just like, I mean, I don't know if I should call his mom, if I'm going to sit here and let him just walk this off. Like, should I go try? Is it my turn, or are you going to keep laying on the rail for the next 10 minutes? Like, what are we doing? You know, it's just
Can
awkward.
You please move out of the way?
All right, man, are you dead? Is your leg broken? So, no, I get it, man. But like, like I said, that I remember one of the parking garages that we used to bomb down. We would, because the donut shops would open at like 4 a.m. or some shit. So we would go get like a couple glazed donuts, take the elevator to the top. And that was kind of like the end of the night was that, because that's when the cars started pulling up.
Right.
About, we would bomb at like 5:30.
Yeah.
Because there was no cars in there yet, but the sun was starting to peak over, and you're on top of like a 12-story parking garage.
Yeah.
The sun's coming up and you're sitting on the edge, just kind of recapping the night with your buddies and the crazy bum story you just heard of the security guard that fought you off. And you're kind of like, you're just kind of, you're doing the opposite of society and you're so free. And that's what I feel like when I travel on my bike, when I'm cruising through LA on Wednesday, morning or afternoon or whatever. And I'm like, these people are all going to work and I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, that was the only connection that I really had other than the thrill of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's a big connection between, with playing music. When you start that live set, nobody understands that just the 3 or 4 of you, or you by yourself, you're locked into, you can't walk off.
Yeah.
You can't get out of there. So you're kind of forced to make this little thing that's going on, that everybody calls the magic of playing and creating and making music. That's going on, and that bonds you guys together big time, and all the little quirks, the things that only is going on stage, the mistakes you make.
It's just like when you go on a bike trip with your boys and all of a sudden you come back saying this saying, you know what I mean? Because that became the word of the trip. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, yeah.
The beer of the trip or whatever the case may be. It's like you pick up all these little nuances, basically.
Different experiences, but that I don't think it's the same with maybe not high school sports. Maybe or maybe not, but there's a rebellious side with all the skateboarding and the music.
Yeah, high
and
school
the
sports, to speak on the fact that I actually played in some of it, was more, you had teammates, but you were still always competitive against them too.
Yeah.
It's like, because when you're in high school, if you want to play sports, you want to get to the next level, which is college. So your goal is to outshine the team. Right. And it's a team effort, right? So it's kind of, it's a contradictory thing because you got to play with the team to help the team win, but you still got to shine above it to be picked for college. Yeah. But I know what you mean. It's, Danny G said it best in this podcast. We were talking about, he's Vans, skateboard culture, all this stuff growing up, punk rock. He goes, man, like these kind of kids it became the family. It became that sports team. It became all this shit that punk rocker kids and heavy metal kids and all these other, it wasn't popular to be those guys back then, especially in the 90s, for me at least.
No. When I became a sponsored amateur skateboarder in Jacksonville,
you sound
Florida,
like fucking Ricky Bobby's dad.
Right, I know. I was like, this is going to be weird, but there were surf shops around there. There was Aqua East Surf Shop, Sunrise Surf Shop. Dan Brooks was the guy that helped everyone out and still does to this day. Sunrise is the shop in Jacksonville Beach. But they had a surf team. When you're on the surf team, you got a gray sweatshirt. Yeah. Well, skateboarders in high school, there's probably 5, 6, under 10. Everybody hated us, Well, when I became a sponsored amateur with Sunrise, I got one of them sweatshirts for skating. And, man, there's some people pissed off, and I rocked that shit. I was a junior.
Like the surfer dudes were pissed or what?
A couple of the surfer dudes were cool. Some of the surfer dudes wanted to keep it pure, and they're like, nah, man. And because the surfer guys were kind of down on some of the skater guys, and we're like, well, fuck y'all. Yeah. And I was always like, you're falling in water, we're falling on concrete. It's not even the same thing. Yeah, exactly. If you really want to get into it, but I ain't bashing on you. You're the one bashing on me, whatever, But it was very different with, skateboarding not being accepted coming up like that, and how stoked are kids today to have some of the baddest parks you've ever seen.
That's the weird thing about the progression of all these things that we hold dear to us now: motorcycles, skateboarding, music. Like the shit that's played on. I feel like I should have been my mom or my grandmother in the 80s, like, what are you listening to Two Live Crew for? That's horrible.
Right.
Compared to what they say now. But at the same time, like, you know, riding motorcycles was always looked down upon. Like that, you were always a second-class citizen.
Yeah.
Skateboarding, the same thing, especially through the 90s when everything was about basically defacing public property.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then, obviously, music has always had its, you know, its fair share of getting told no from powers to be and shit. It's like we just keep picking the wrong side of the tracks to hang out on, basically.
Man, I like it over there.
It's so much cooler. Yeah, it's way better.
I like it over there.
Yeah, man, it's weird how that, but it's weird how now, it's not even weird. It's just, it's funny how now everything it's part of culture. Like you can go to Walmart and buy a skate ramp, you know, a little wedge ramp and shit like that. It's like so accepted to the point where there's skateboard video games. There's, you know, motorcycles all over the place. I mean, the dirt bike thing really helped I think it helped bring motorcycles into the like parents' eyes to be acceptable for kids.
I think so, man. And you know, how stoked are you to, I mean, I think a lot of dudes jumping on dynos doing stunts have a lot of that motorcycle background from motocross and dirt bikes and stuff, you know? So, man, they're stoked. That's killer. You know, how stoked is a kid that's 14 doing a 540, no pads, and some crazy 14-foot deep, perfect bowl that their city paid for that they go get to skate for free. Yeah.
Well, what it really ultimately does is now that there is you got the class of people that just made do with what they did, and they created this, for lack of a better term, sport, right? This whole scene. And then now that it's become accepted, now these newer generations can take this shit so much further than people ever imagined because of the acceptance and the opportunities that have.
I forget what trick I saw the other day on some kind of Instagram share or something.
Yeah.
But it was the most ridiculous stuff. And I'm like, man, I would have never, ever thought that was even possible. Holy crap.
That is one thing I will say that came out of 2020 that I really enjoy is I rediscovered skateboarding videos instead of watching political videos.
Right.
Like,
right.
To see guys like, you know, from my generation, Jamie Thomas, these guys that are 50-something years old now, still out there fucking doing hard flips and kicking it downstairs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, dang, that's dope. I love seeing that. And then it's like, you know, YouTube, right? So I got my TVs everywhere. I watch YouTube all day, but it's like, man, like I can click on that COVID update for 2021 January, or I can watch what's Tom Penny doing now. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And watch a little, like what they're trying to do on you with this documentary about some of these skaters that I grew up idolizing. You know what I'm saying? It's way more better. It's way better, way more inspiring to watch that shit.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. My friend Todd Johnson, that was one of my close friends. He was on the Sunrise team too. Mm-hmm. He goes by Tojo Skates on Instagram. He's still killing vert with, in Florida, there's I guess there's quite a few vert ramps. And some of the old vert skaters, Mike Frazier was a buddy of mine when I was a sponsored amateur. He went on to skate for Powell, for pro, and I know. And he's always posting videos. And my friend Todd is ripping, still same tricks we were doing. Well, better, you know. And then sending me a video of him almost pulling off a frontside invert, and he's 2 years older than me.
Yeah,
you know. I'm like, bro, you're learning frontside inverts at 50. Yeah. On a 14-foot, like not a 10-foot vert ramp.
Yeah, you know? Launcher.
Like a gnarly vert ramp. And he's still killing all the pools and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
It's awesome. I wish.
That's one of the things that I think that motorcycles, music, tattoos, all this stuff, I think one thing that I've noticed about it, and this is a generalization, is that I think that we don't ever stop dreaming. You know what I mean? I know that sounds kind of, you know, human resources poster on the wall to be motivational, but like I'm almost 40 years old and I still got dreams like I'm fucking 20. Like, man, one day I'm gonna do this and one day I'm gonna do that. Yeah. And I think it's bred because our life is always fun. It's work. It's hard work.
I agree.
But it's still fucking rad, man, when you sit back and look at it. I hate this shot, but then whenever I'm going and I turn out those lights and I look back and I see that big logo LED'd up, I'm like, fuck yeah, it's still badass though. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Thanks, Carly.
Right. Right. I feel the same way when I walk in the shop, no matter like, oh, today's going to suck. And I'm like, you know, man, I should be pretty thankful because I remember, you know, I'm sure it's the same way with you. I remember when that was a storage unit.
Yeah.
And I was cranking out, held that bike that was in American Iron, that basic shovel head. I painted that in a storage unit. That was my second shop because I got kicked out of one storage unit, commercial space. The second storage unit was a lift and a tabletop bench, and I covered everything in Visqueen, and I painted all those tins in the same place and then cut and buffed them. And I'm like, man, I'm thankful to have it. I got it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I've painted in some of the most crazy situations as well, but you know, like you know, there's never going to be a documentary about that shit, and you know what I mean. It's just cool to know that, you know, when you're younger and you're hungry to learn this shit, then you'll do whatever it takes to kind of continue the process, and that's one of the things I notice about maybe some of the younger guys now is that it's always I need this and I need that before I can try this and try that, and I think that, you know, I didn't know there was better tools when I was young because I didn't have a YouTube or Instagram to, I need that paint gun instead of the one that's cheap that I can afford. I just I'll make this work.
You would have been lucky enough for somebody that actually paints to come by and hopefully tell you that you were doing it wrong and correct
or what you used to have to do is, like, if you didn't have like any kind of painter friends, you would take it to the paint store you bought paint from, who these guys are not really that knowledgeable. I mean, they're knowledgeable on the products, but maybe not as knowledgeable on the application.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey man, what did I do wrong here? And then hopefully some customer there is like, let me take a look at that. Here's what's going on. You know what I mean? That was critiquing back in the day. It wasn't like, I'm going to put it on Instagram and everybody's like, oh man, it fucking sucks. It's a shitty layout. You know what I mean? Like,
people bashing you that really, you're going, man, I was just trying to get some advice.
Yeah. And that's the problem is that people, you know, for instance, I don't like Facebook, but I still have one. And I started getting, on groups for like photography cliques in Dallas that do like model shoots and stuff where you can like say you have a studio and you're like, hey man, I got this model coming in. We got lights. We got everything set up. If you want to come in and shoot with us and I'll show you some things, it's $100 a spot. I'm like, fuck yeah. I'll do that all day long. Even if I don't get to shoot, I'll just watch. Right.
Sure.
I want to see how he interacts with the model. Like, how do you direct her? Because I don't know how to say those kind of things or do that.
Right.
But I forgot what I was going to say.
It was going towards the photography and the
that's right. So a lot of people I noticed in those things will put photos up that are really good photos, and they'll say, hey, you guys are looking for some critiques. And it's like, in my head, I'm like, that's a great photo. I mean, of my expertise, but then you look at people and you look at their criticism of it, and then you look at their work, and I'm like, are you even qualified to criticize their work?
Facebook's horrible with that
stuff.
Yeah,
but it's like this. First off, they shouldn't be asking people's opinions on a public forum.
I was about to say that's asking for.
Maybe find a photographer that you actually work with and they know you and send them the photos. Say, hey man, check these out. Let me know what you think I could do differently. That way, it's not this. Hey, it's kind of like that. Hey, this is my bike. Bash me.
Hey, you like green or not? If you don't, please comment 50 times.
Well, that's kind of the thing that sucks too about YouTube is that they all. Once again, another point I got to make. After watching a year and a half of YouTube straight every day, I realized that it's part of their algorithm to get you, for them to grow their channel, to ask you to like, comment, and subscribe. Mm-hmm. So when you don't have anything to say, the comment becomes whatever you can think of first thing that comes to mind. Could be horrible, mean shit.
Right.
It could be awesome, that rocks. It could be a lot of stupid shit. But the point is, it's like you're encouraging people to put an opinion into something when it's really not necessary.
You're just trying to get them to interact.
Yeah, because the interaction helps push their videos to the next thing, but it also inadvertently creates a lot of opinionated assholes that don't deserve to be putting their opinion out there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude, I see some stuff going on that, people put some stuff up for sale on Chopper Swapper.
Oh, man.
There was a guy put something up, I think it was yesterday. It was a solid panhead project.
Mm-hmm.
Guy wanted 12 grand. And there's a bunch of people chiming in, bro, you know, I could get a run in panhead for like $1,000 more. Like, cool.
Yeah.
Do it. Why you got to be bashing this dude? He didn't say it's 18 grand.
Yeah.
He said you could pretty much break that down. I thought about it. I was like, man, if I had that money laying around, I could take what I need out of it, recoup the rest of it, probably make a couple bucks. I mean, it was that fair.
Yeah.
And then you sit back going, dude, what? Why?
People just gotta put their shit out there
in with some stuff. I tell people all the time, like, man, you shouldn't comment something that wouldn't get you punched in the face at a swap meet. It's the same principle. It's a swap meet on here. I don't know why you feel like you need to say something.
Yeah, walk up to that dude with those prices and say that shit to him in his van. You know what I mean? But it's the same thing with the FXR community. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's guys out there that put parts out there for really. It's hard to say. It's hard for me to say that it's an outrageous price, but it's because what it boils down to is, am I willing to pay that or not? If I'm not, I move on.
My thing is, go find it. That dude did.
Yeah.
If he's been sitting on it for a while, he's probably been sitting on about 20 grand investment in some stuff. So who are you to say what the price was when you weren't even around?
Yeah, you don't know what he
when
put into
you
it.
didn't even know what an FXR was.
Exactly.
So why are you chiming in and bashing this dude that played his cards right, basically?
Yeah.
You know, it's ridiculous.
Are we talking about the same dude, Elvis?
No. I was in the vintage world. I wasn't saying anything.
You know what? I've always there's a bike parts resale shop here in town. I don't know if they're still here, but they used to be back in my sport bike days. And everybody complained about their prices for used parts, but their prices were always half of what the part is brand new, right? But it was still like, fuck, man. Like, here's the deal. Like, you do a wheelie on a bike, or your chain breaks and it smashes your water pump, and you got to buy a water pump for a fucking sport bike. Yeah. That's a very, very random item that you're never going to have to buy. Therefore, from the factory, it's $700-800. Half of that is $350. And people are like, fuck, $350 for a water pump for a sport bike? You know, it's like, well, it's still half of new.
Yeah.
And you're complaining like this dude's ripping you off when you can go buy it new for double that price.
Yeah, man. It's you got to pay to play, you know, or have all the stuff stacked up.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing. It's the same concept, because if that was a commonly broken item that gets broken a lot when people wreck, they would probably be cheaper because they'd have to mass produce more of those parts to fill the need. Therefore, it brings the price down. But when you only have to make so many, like, fuck, man, I can't afford to put these out there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man,
it's a tough one.
I don't know.
So what this year coming up, man? You got this year that we're in, actually.
Yeah, it's so weird.
It didn't change. It feels the same.
It feels like 2020 drug on so long with so many bumps that it is 2021. So we're going to be around quite a few places.
Probably the biggest thing coming up for you guys is the show that you're hosting in Daytona.
Yeah. Well, the show is at the Adamak Harley St. Augustine dealership, which is 45 miles north of the Ross Myers dealership on 95. It's hosted by Cycle Source Magazine and Jason Hallman with the Garage Built podcast. Mm-hmm. They'll be the hosts. We got a Pro Builder Showcase. And we also have 6 categories. It's an open bike show. The Pro Builder Showcase is a $1,000 purse for the winner.
Nice.
All 6 categories of the open bike show, which anyone's able to pull up and participate in.
So the open bike show allows it to be mainly choppers, or is it open to different?
It's 6 categories. Mm-hmm. So depending, we're going to modify this with attendance, but the general premise is we'll have a chopper category, we'll have a best paint category, we'll have a best Dyna FXR category, we'll have a best performance bagger category, we'll have a best vintage restoration category.
Nice.
And then we'll have an absolute open class that will be for bikes that are a little less customized, you know, it is at a dealership, so there's plenty of people that put some handlebars and exhaust on their bike and are proud of it, and we like to see that too.
Yeah.
You know, they'll come out and they'll get
inspired by the bigger builds. Hopefully.
Yeah, well, the thing with this is that and these builders are coming from all over the country. The pro builder list is Bill Dodge, Boosted Brad, Brian Buteris, Drew from Freak Show Fab, Justin from Hang 'em High, Johnny Humphreys, Johnny 99, Rich with It'll Ride Choppers, Kyle Ray Rice, the Copper Top Garage, Stephen Bates, which everybody knows him on Instagram as Dixiana. He was in the People's Champ with me that had the Yamaha that got disqualified. He's bringing the Yamaha all the way from Alabama. Lefevre Cycles, Jared Weems that's doing the Triumph Dave Mann restoration for Born Free.
Yeah.
Mad Pen Cycles, Xavier with Providence Cycle Works. And we got a couple wild cards. Registration will be day of show. It's $10 to get in. And they'll have the Ives Brothers Wall of Death there as well. And Chris and Mark Adamak that own the Adamak dealerships are vintage bike guys. And Chris Adamak has an extensive vintage bike, Harley race bike collection. It's 30-something bikes.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so he'll have those on display there. And, yeah, we're hoping to have a good time, man.
The one year I decide I don't want to go to Daytona, you got to show there's a skinny tire bagger build off going on with Hardcore Cycles or Performance Baggers Instagram. Then, of course, everybody in the Performance Bagger scene's going down there. And I think I'm going to go ride PCH during Daytona.
Well, you know,
but
I don't disagree.
But I think this is going to be dope. I think that, more shows like this coming out that brings everybody together. That's one thing I loved about Born Free when they opened up to having San Diego Customs there to bring the Dynas and FXRs in, and even Performance Baggers last year when we were there.
Yeah.
It's cool because we all party in the same fucking places. Like
right.
I might be on T-bars and a bagger, but I feel closer to hanging out with you and your vintage chopper than I do with the guy with the stereo and a big wheel and air ride.
And we do as well because we're coming from the same backgrounds, just like what you're talking about, you know. And I hope that a bunch of FXRs and Dynas come out enough for – right now we're getting a ton of response from the chopper community, but we're hoping that enough FXR and Dyna and Performance Bagger people come out there where we can kind of fudge around those categories to, kind of accommodate everybody. And
so that's good. So you got that, and then
so we're basically going to be traveling almost every month up until August. So there's the Chopper Town Bike Show in Sarasota, Florida. That's, I think, February 19th to the 21st in Sarasota. Bike Week, we're going to be down at the Cycle Source Show. We'll have Francine the Panhead down there. I think we're going to be doing the V-Twin Visionary Show Wednesday, and then obviously we'll have our event Saturday. April, we're participating in the Congregation Show, and that's kind of pending on what those guys are doing, but we'll have a handful of bikes and be vending up there. May, we're an invited builder for Bill Dodge's Tennessee Motorcycle and Music Revival. June, we're headed to Born Free to bring our Panhead out there.
So are they going to, real quick, are they going to basically just carry on to Born Free? Would it be 11 or 12?
I think it's 12, but I might be wrong.
So
so what's going on with Born Free, and I don't want to speak out of turn to represent them, but the gist as it's going on right now is all of the 29 invited builders got rolled over from 2020. The 2020 People's Champ competitors, the final 6, and I think all 25 that were in that year competition will have a spot at Crooks Corner and at Born Free, and then a whole nother 2021 People's Champ competition starts. They just ended some entry submissions for it.
See, I feel like personally, which I'm not an expert, but I feel like if you just don't have it that year, then everything rolls over, and now Born Free 12 is Born Free 12, even if it isn't 2020.
Unfortunately, the People's Champ thing's different from Born Free.
Oh, okay.
And since it's Biltwell stuff, the reason why Biltwell's involved in that is for all the advertisement.
Yeah.
Amongst all the other things, and Biltwell is very, very good to all of the People's Champ competitors. They hooked us up with parts. They promote the crap out of you if you choose to play that game. I mean, it has been a game changer for our business.
Yeah.
But without being told directly, I'm assuming that is, you're under contract to hashtag them every time you're posting as frequently as you're supposed to. So,
Yeah.
you know, they deserve it. That's what they're in it for. So, you know, that's why they have a whole nother batch of people that get to go through that torture in less time. So my hats are off to them because they got 6 months to do it to it. And I've already seen some of the submissions. There's some people I'm pulling for, and there's already some phenomenal bikes coming together for it. So more power to those guys, and looking forward to seeing them out there. You know?
What else? So after Born Free, then we're in July. You're pretty much chilling in July.
Chilling in July, and then in August, hopefully will be our first trip to Sturgis.
Nice.
You know, so we're figuring out some stuff with that, and you know,
I always feel like Sturgis that's New Year's Eve is Sturgis, and then after Sturgis, that's New Year's Day for me, motorcycle related.
You know, it's tough to.
It's hard to plan after Sturgis,
right?
You know, what
right?
I mean?
Well, you know, it's a night and day travel schedule from what we're used to. So, you know, we're looking forward to seeing everybody out there, you know, and having them see all, you know, all the stuff that we do, and can't thank enough all the people that with all the positive response to the People's Champ bike, and, you know, our social media blowing up and all the positive comments and stuff. It really has been overwhelming, and I myself and everyone involved in Alleyway are very, very thankful for all the help. Jason Hallman and Chris and Heather from Cycle Source, and yourself, Jace, and, you know, all the stuff that, man, it's great. You guys have made us feel very welcome.
Dude, you build cool shit. We'll sweat your nuts, man. That's how it works.
Man, we really, really appreciate it.
No, it's a beautiful bike, man. Like I said, I walked up on it and didn't even, you know, hadn't had much interaction of knowing you, and, you know, immediately the conversation we had at Jason's show there was, you know, I walked away like, man, I told my wife, like, I could talk to that guy all day with a smile on my face. It
was a fun conversation, man. We were covering a lot of good stuff. I am responsible for in winning the Rick Hallman Legacy Award. Down there, I have some ideas that I'm gonna bounce off Jason. You know, I'd like to see, given that that's kind of my responsibility this year, and I have to build a trophy. I have to create the trophy and pick the winner. But I'd really like to encourage some people to build a bike for it. You know, short or long term, you got a whole year. And I'd like to give out the invitation that if you would like to direct message me about anything you would like to learn or better what you're trying to do to that motorcycle to make it as top notch as it could be for that show, let's carry it on. You know, Jason was kind enough to plant the seed to give us something that we can keep going. And
I had a good time there. I think the placement of Jason's show being in December, at the beginning of December, right to kind of end our bike season, right? Before we have to do the holiday shit. I had such a good time.
It's great timing.
You know what I mean?
How it fell into place like that. It's an awesome show. Everybody there, you know, all the people that immediately from setup that Friday, you know, there's most of those builders I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I knew Jason would invite some great people because he's like that, you know, and that was an added plus when you got a bunch of builders around, which, you know, we've kind of shadowed, or whatever you want to call Jason's event with inviting some of those builders to ours for Bike Week. But that's because all those people, you know, were super nice. That's the kind of people you want at your event.
Yeah.
They'll talk to the people that come up, you know, the attendees.
They're not rock stars. They're professionals.
Yeah.
I mean, they're rock stars in general, but they're not acting like it. You know what I mean?
And a lot of them are very, very accomplished. Well, more accomplished than myself, you know. But, you know, we all get along, and it makes for a great event. And, you know, Jason did a great job putting that one on.
For sure. Well, cool, man. We got to go to bike night.
We do.
Tell everybody where to find you on Instagram and all those. The YouTube too, man, so I can check out these videos. Yeah.
So on Instagram, it's Alleyway Customs with a K. We're actually on Facebook, and we also have a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is a series of, I believe it's 10 or 11 videos that document the build process of our People's Champ bike that were shot real professionally by Bo at Bocrum Media. So check that stuff out. We'll be adding to it, and you know, give Jason
what's the name? Alleyway Customs.
Alleyway Customs on YouTube. Yep.
Okay, cool.
With a K. With a K. Thank you for having me,
dude. Thanks for coming out, man.